Chapter 11, Titanomachy v. Poseidon POV. The day had come when we finally attacked Mount Othrys and engaged Cronus directly. This war has been going on for long enough, and while I did enjoy fighting, polishing my martial arts, creating my own dimension and growing more powerful, it is time for something new. The Titans don't have anything that interests me anymore, so this is for the best. Gaia was fuming at the fact that I used my Zanpakuto or soul cutter sword to kill another one of her sons, Oceanus. That was now 2 and almost 3. Atlas has finally regained his bearings somewhat. There was bound to be some heavy trauma after what I did to him. But what was Gaia to do about it? She has undoubtedly already started to plan and prepare for the gigantes that are to target me. I am not sure whether she will also give birth to the antithesis of the other Olympians like in the myths, but that doesn't matter to me. I am just interested to see what pops out of her Vega. She has some real talent as a broodmare, that much is certain. Besides that, she is as annoying as anything. Luckily I have my own dimension now, so I won't have to bother with her. Lately, there have been other pantheons that pay very close attention to me. The reason for that is the concern and anger of their respective sea, water, or storm gods with me. And there are many of those for some reason. For example, Susanoo, Shinto god of storms and the sea, has visited the waters of my underwater city and tried to gauge my strength by provoking me into a fight. But our pantheon is currently busy fighting the Titans, so I don't want another war right after. But I was interested to see what Susanoo had to boast about. And he was rather powerful. Susanoo and his siblings Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi are rather interested in me and my growing power. I didn't fight Susanoo though, there was no point. Why would I fight him if he has nothing to offer me? I am superior to him in every way, and while that enrages him, I can see that Amaterasu told him not to start a war right away. Amaterasu is a smart woman in that regard. She knows that if her brother fights me one-on-one, he will lose, as not even the combined might of Hyperion and Atlas could bring me down. Oceanus was embarrassingly easy to deal with, and he was even more humiliated after I used my soul cutter sword to take away everything he had. His power, domain and even his Itcher were absorbed by my trident. So having her brother fight me would be unwise. But a war was possible. She could easily ally herself with the Titans and then deal with the Olympians, but she wasn't certain how the end result would be and if she would like it. After all, Cronus was a pain for all of Earth and not just Greece. Tsukuyomi was also interested in me. The moon had a close relationship with the seas, but he wasn't interested in fighting me like his brother Susanoo was. That's good, he was even weaker than Susanoo anyway. Amaterasu on the other hand is someone I am interested in fighting. She is a godhead or god queen of her pantheon and as such holds great power, making her an interesting adversary for my tastes. Another god who was interested in me and someone I was interested in as well, was Indra, king of the Hindu gods, god of weather, and bringer of rain, thunderstorms, and clouds. His power dwarfed Zeus and Amaterasu respectively, making the idea of fighting him very interesting to me. But the Hindu gods didn't really care about others, and the conflict we had was not something Indra would ever interfere with. The growing control over the domain of any liquid was concerning him though, I knew as much. So there might come a time when he will do something about it. And fighting the Hindu pantheon will be hard for us, well, not for me, but for the Greek pantheon as a whole. The Hindu pantheon is so much more powerful than ours. But since I am here and will only grow further, we shall see. Chalchiatlicue, Mexican goddess of water, lakes, rivers, seas, streams, horizontal waters, storms, and baptism. She had many divinities, while mine was simply the seas and ocean, but now also liquids as a whole. This made me that much more powerful and inconsequential, as much as she hated that fact. Now the ones who interested me though were the Ennead, or Egyptian pantheon. Not the pantheon as a whole, but one person. There were many gods there who had some divinity over water or rivers, just like we had in the Greek pantheon. Tefnut, goddess of water, moisture, and fertility. Berthe, goddess of water and more. But the one who interested me was Ra. And that is for good reason. Ra, unlike what I thought and read about, was female here. And yes, I am aware the genders aren't fixed amongst gods, but there is an original gender that we all have and hers is female. I am reminded of a character from a Korean webtoon I read, Ennead. The history was similar to the story I read and I thought it was funny. Set, the god of war, had killed his brother Osiris and has begun to rule Egypt. For some reason, I had gained the attention of Ra, the goddess of the sun and probably the strongest one at that, stronger than Amaterasu and stronger than Hyperion, now that he was gone. I don't know how it happened, but I can feel a gaze on me whenever I move out of the seas and follow me everywhere. I have traced the gaze back and that was how I found out about Ra. I started to use my pools of inspiration to hide from such gazes and after a while, I managed to do just that. It was annoying, but after I did that, I saw certain animals that kept an eye on me whenever I rose above the water. Seriously? How could she be this obnoxious? Gods and their boredom, and now I am the one getting bothered. If this goes on like this, I will be the one to start a war with the Ennead and not the other way around. My body starts to form on Mount Olympus in the war tent where the others are already preparing for the fight to come against the Titans. The final attack in this far too long war. The water in the air forms my body and I appear there. I'm here, I say, and Zeus nods his head. I can see the displeasure in his eyes. He hates the fact that I don't take the war seriously and almost never attend. But that is none of my concern. In the few days I actually fought in the war, I did more than all the others combined. If he wanted to be remembered as the one who won the war, he should be stronger. Glad you could join the meeting, Lord Poseidon. We were just discussing the final push for Mount Othrys, Métis says. Where were you, brother? Chasing after Oceanus' daughters. Now that you killed him, Hera asks me with a smirk. I find it impressive that you think you can talk to me that way when you are as weak as you are. Being funny takes strength, something you clearly don't have. But go on, we'll see how strong your face is when it meets my palm, I tell her. Gasp. That was uncalled for, Poseidon, Hades says, unable to contain the smallest of smiles. Throughout the war, I have gotten closer to Hades and we have spent some time together just drinking and talking. He appears as a tense man, but he is the best of the Olympians, no doubt. Not strength-wise, of course. Whatever. Can we start the discussion now? This war will end today and that is final. I have no interest in continuing any longer and this is our best chance to fight Cronus. We will defeat him once and for all, Zeus says. Thank you, Zeus. Now, the plan is rather simple. The Hecatoncheires and Cyclops will stay here and use any object they can find, boulders and other heavy things, to throw them at Mount Othrys. They will be the long-range attackers, to keep them occupied. Hades will attack Mount Othrys from the north and attack the ground troops. Zeus will fly in the sky to deal with any airborne threat we may face and to keep them from attacking Mount Olympus. Finally, we have Poseidon who will attack Mount Othrys from the south. You will use your power over the sea to attack them and flood any troops they might have, Métis explained the attack. I have no problems with that plan. It's a good plan. Any plan would be good now that we have Mount Olympus and can send Zeus through the air to attack them. I could have flooded or frozen Mount Othrys as well, but that would have been too easy for them. I don't want them to think of me as too helpful. Just enough to ensure we win. Good. Then good luck to all of you. Third-person POV. Poseidon was in the sea in front of all the troops he had amassed during the war. He was more than ready to destroy all the Titans now. He had been ready long ago, but now there was no doubt in his mind that this would be a quick fight. He summoned his trident and pointed it towards Mount Othrys where the Titan Iapetus was located. Atlas couldn't face Poseidon anymore as he had a trauma after their fight. It was embarrassing. All of the troops started to attack and all of them rode the ginormous tsunami wave Poseidon created and swept across the lands until they reached Mount Othrys. It was a massacre. There was no fight involved and Poseidon didn't even look at Iapetus as he controlled the liquids in his body and made the poor bastard explode into guts and ichor. He was quick to use his trident to absorb all the ichor and power of the Titan. Without even looking at him, he continued on his way. A water throne was conjured that looked exactly like the one he had in his soul space. He controlled the water and rose towards the top of Mount Othrys. He observed as his generals wiped the floor with the Titan's forces and decimated everyone standing in their way. Iapetus might have posed a problem to them, but Poseidon was just far too powerful and didn't want to play. He rose higher until he reached the top. He could feel the other battles taking place but didn't care about them. He continued on his way until he reached the throne room. He floated on his throne and appeared in front of the figure of his father Cronus. His father had his scythe next to him and was looking at Poseidon with fire in his eyes. So you finally appear before me? Have you come to destroy me, Poseidon? Cronus asks. Indeed. You were stupid. Everyone knows that prophecies are self-fulfilling and doing something about it is stupid. You were better before, but let your power get to your head. It is your stupidity that killed you today. We shall see. Indeed we shall. Boom. Chapter 12, Titanomachy 6. Third-person POV. Poseidon was still sitting on his throne which was floating in the air. Cronus grabs his scythe and swings it towards him with his tremendous speed. Poseidon can feel the vibrations through the air and takes control over them. He absorbs them through the air and stops them, effectively stopping Cronus' momentum. But something strange happened. Instead of stopping, Cronus' scythe was suddenly right in front of Poseidon, threatening to split him in two. But Poseidon's trident appeared right in front of the scythe, stopping it from cutting him. Boom. A strong wind blows everything away as the two weapons hit each other. Poseidon has already been using the pools of inspiration to find out Cronus' weaknesses and how to defeat him. That's how Poseidon knows what just happened and is not as surprised as he might be if he didn't know. This might have been the end of the fight if he had not been able to block the attack. Poseidon had many ways to not die from this attack. He could turn his entire body into any liquid he chose, but this was still a different situation. The scythe of Cronus was gifted to him by Gaia herself and could permanently kill gods. If his head had been cut off, Poseidon would have had a hard time keeping up with the powerful momentum Cronus gained. But Poseidon was nothing if not a rising star. He prepared enough for this fight and knew what to expect. So when Cronus suddenly skipped through time and bypassed all defenses, Poseidon was ready and defended against the attack. The power of Poseidon's trident is growing as Poseidon is growing. They are connected and therefore grow together. Poseidon has been using his trident in his fights to learn how to use his power and make the most of it. Cling. Bang. Boom. The trident continued to defend against Cronus' attacks, without Poseidon wielding it physically. This is the effect of Poseidon's high connection to his weapon and indirectly his soul. He can control his soul cutter sword using his will alone and doesn't even have to lift a finger. Poseidon is using the pools of inspiration to gain more information about the scythe Cronus is using. He can sense the power it contains and knows what will happen to it. The moment his analysis is complete, Poseidon opens his eyes, which had been closed, and he smiles. But that smile immediately leaves his face, when Cronus cuts through his body and splits him in half. Your arrogance is astounding, son. I admit, I was surprised that you managed to block the first attack and could even keep up with my speed and strength, but you didn't see anything yet. I am Cronus, the Titan of Time. Do you really believe that you can defend against an attack that has already happened? Cronus asks, and shrugs. It doesn't matter anyway. You're dead now and it is your own fault for facing me alone. Are you sure about that? Poseidon asks. He raises his finger, points behind Cronus and then his body turns into water and dissipates into the air. Impressive. I agree. It is impressive. Poseidon's voice is heard behind Cronus. Boom. A fist hits Cronus in the face, but the King of Titans manages to block it with the handle of his scythe at the last moment. Cronus shoots back, surprised by the power Poseidon possesses. To stop his momentum and be out of this fight, Cronus swings his scythe and cuts into the ground, creating a crater as he slowly loses his momentum and comes to a stop. Boom. Another punch from Poseidon arrives in front of Cronus, but this time it is not his fist, but a fist made out of water. Cronus scoffs at the speed of the attack. Speed is relative to Cronus as he has a divinity of time. Nothing is too fast or too slow for him. He holds control over this aspect, which is why he is unimpressed by Poseidon's attack. The figure of Cronus blurs as he raises his scythe and cuts through the fist made out of water. But that isn't the only attack coming towards him. Another fist arrives from the right, trying to hit him with a right hook. Another one from the bottom with an uppercut. A cross, a jab, another right hook. More and more attacks made out of water reach Cronus and force the Titan to use his divinity and increase his speed. His figure turns even more blurry as he swings his scythe so fast to create shockwaves in the throne room. But Poseidon is unconcerned about all of this. He has once again taken his seat on the throne and is forming more and more attacks to bother his father and push him to his limits. He wants to see how far the power of Cronus goes. Time manipulation is a very powerful thing to have, and Cronus is powerful, but it doesn't make much sense for him to hide up here when all of his loyal brothers and sisters are fighting down there and losing. His arrogance is astounding. Poseidon would never do something like that. He wouldn't bother with weak enemies either, but he would first make sure they were truly weak and not sacrifice his soldiers like lambs to the slaughter. Boom. Shing. Boom. 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 Shing. Different objects and creations made out of water start to appear and attack Cronus. Water vines ensnare his feet to stop his movements. Sharpshooters attack him from a long range. Sharks, sea lions, killer whales and other predators attack and try to bite him, and still thousands of fists and tridents made out of water are fighting him as if Poseidon himself were there. Poseidon has taken his martial arts to the next level. The one he managed to reach when fighting Hyperion was no longer that impressive of what he was now capable of. Poseidon was using his own variation of water stream rock smashing fist, Poseidon style, mixed with water breathing from Kimetsu no Yaiba. Water breathing was different from the manga, it used actual water and it also didn't only use a katana. Poseidon created his own variation where he could use his trident to fight. Water style, vibration knuckle x100. Poseidon has managed to use his martial arts with his constructs and control water and any other liquid to the point that he could even add vibrations to them and perform the vibration knuckle with it. That was beyond hard normally. To create a construct out of water, you have to keep the water stable and not have it move around independently. This is the exact opposite of the vibration knuckle, as the molecules have to vibrate and send out those vibrations to damage the opponent. To combine them both together was a monstrous task. Poseidon had to practice after he used the pool of inspiration to come up with a way to combine both things. Naturally, he mastered it, right in this fight. But the best thing is that this isn't even his final form. There's more to it still. Reality seems to crack like glass as the thousands of vibration knuckles hit Cronus. But then, the world suddenly skips and all the attacks disappear from existence. Like they were never there to begin with, and what we're left with is Cronus holding a small ball in his hand. There is a cruel smirk on the Titan's lips as he throws the small dark ball of energy towards Poseidon. Poseidon breathing, 7th form, drop ripple vibration thrust. Poseidon for the first time takes his trident into his hand and pulls it back. He knows what is coming and what this attack is and has to respond accordingly. He performs a precise, fast and accurate thrust with his trident using his own Poseidon breathing. Picture. The ball made out of time energy, was meant to turn back Poseidon's time and make him weaker. Cronus knows that making Poseidon older would be as stupid as killing himself. Making Poseidon older would not decay his body as he was a god, instead, it would only make him stronger as Poseidon would age and grow more powerful with age. That is why Cronus opted to make him younger, and then have him disappear entirely. But Poseidon was prepared and used his trident, combined with his Poseidon breathing to thrust a hole through the attack. But that's not all, the power of the thrust continues after it penetrates the ball of time and reaches Cronus. But the Titan of Time has already seen this attack in the future, just in time to block it with his scythe. He is once again pushed back by the force of the attack. But this time, things are different. He can't stop his momentum the same way, and what's more, Poseidon has appeared behind him. The scythe begins to shine in a green light and power emanates from it. The force pushing him forward suddenly grows weaker at an astronomically fast pace and dissipates. He sped up time to remove the force and stop his movement. Just in time, the grinning Cronus turns around to receive the attacks coming from Poseidon. A green hue of divine light covers Cronus' body and he smirks as Poseidon's fist comes closer towards him. Boom. Cronus continues to stand there. No damage can be seen on his body. Poseidon narrows his eyes and then punches again. Boom. But the result is the same. Nothing happens. How sad you look, Poseidon. To think that the strongest of my sons has to lose in this fashion. Embarrassing. You can't hit me because we aren't even at the same time right now. I have separated myself from your time stream using my divinity. You can't hit something that doesn't exist in your time. Cronus explains what is going on. Impressive. But success is my only option, failure's not, Poseidon says and attacks again. This time he is using his unarmed martial arts. Boom. 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 His fists pick up speed and Cronus simply watches him embarrass himself and grins. He likes to see this as he wants to see his son lose all hope of defeating him. Poseidon uses his martial arts and then adds something else to the mix. The peak of his martial arts has surpassed what was thought possible in this life. Poseidon took inspiration from another amazing manga to create his strongest martial arts yet. The fist, which is coated in a vibration bubble, has taken on a different color this time. It seems to be pushing something. Cronus, seeing this, only shakes his head in amusement and watches as the punch reaches his green energy. But then, recoilless, vibration knuckle. Boom. K. The punch actually connects with Cronus' face and hits him out of his separate time stream. Cronus' brain was rattled, to say the least. This attack was pure martial arts and not one speck of divinity, and yet it managed to pass through the time barrier and almost smash his head in. It was unheard of and thought to be impossible. Cronus stands back up. He turns back time on his body and makes the pain and damage disappear. Time manipulation is truly convenient. He looks at his son, who is looking at him with a completely apathetic face, devoid of any emotion. Cronus sees red. He interprets that look of his son as him looking down on Cronus. Rhea, Cronus shouts. Boom. Vroom. His full power and divine energy explode out of him, pressuring all around them. The throne room and the entire mountain begin to age and decay or turn back into nothingness. But Poseidon only stands there unaffected by this display. You will pay for your arrogance, Poseidon. I will kill you and then you will grow at my feet. I will p your mother in front of you and slowly pick apart your brothers and sisters. This is my world, Cronus shouts and attacks Poseidon with his most powerful swing yet. Sigh, how pitiful, Poseidon says and sighs. He takes his trident and points it at the approaching Cronus and for the first time says the magic words. Surge, flow, and destroy. Kappa upsilon nu delta omicron nu tau alpha tau omega nu rho omicron nu tau omega nu upsilon gamma rho nu. Fang of the Flowing Liquids, Chapter 13, Titanomachy 7. Cronus POV. Surge, flow, and destroy. Kappa upsilon nu delta omicron nu tau alpha tau omega nu rho omicron nu tau omega nu upsilon gamma rho nu. Fang of the Flowing Liquids. I hear his voice and then the world changes. Water and other liquids begin to flow from all around. We are inside a storm with him looking at me with his usual apathetic expression. I can still feel my power and space-time hasn't changed, but it is weird. It feels like instead of looking at the real thing, I am seeing an image, which could change at any moment. What is this? I ask confused. This is the initial release of my trident. Although you might be confused about what weapon I am really holding, the truth is far more confusing. You might think it switches between being a sword, a trident, a spear, a brush. The truth is, it is all of those things. The power of my trident is to control the flow of all things. Everything has a flow, water, and other liquids, gas including breathable air, and energy such as heat, electricity, and sometimes kinetic energy and light. Even the smallest of drops can eventually erode the hardest materials, and that is what will happen here. By using this power, I am giving you a great honor. So rejoice, you may see this marvel of a weapon firsthand, he says. I watch in disbelief as his weapon changes into a sword-like form and he swings it in a horizontal arc. I swing my scythe and block his attack, but Poseidon suddenly disappears from my view. Shing. Kakke. I feel my neck being cut and immediately use my power to reverse the damage which was done. I look at him and narrow my eyes. You look confused. Is something wrong? He asks me. You are arrogant. But that will change. You haven't seen anything of my power yet. Let me show you why I am your daddy, I say and use my power in its maximum form. Time stop. Crack. Wadash. Are you confused? You tried to stop time just now, but it didn't work. When I use this power, nothing is in stasis. Everything flows and is constantly moving. You will have to try something else. Again, I see his weapon change from a strange sword into a spear. He twirls the spear around in his hand and tries to stab me in quick succession. His speed is faster than before, tremendously so. I use my power over time and slow it down for me and him. He grows slower and I faster. With all my physical strength, I swing the scythe at him in an overhead strike. The scythe approaches his head and threatens to split him in half, but at the last moment, I see my blade bend around him and miss him entirely. Whoosh. I move my head back and tilt my upper body, dodging another attack. He got faster again. How is this possible? I use more of my power to slow down time more than before and make him slower while I get even faster. Now it is getting harder for my mind to keep up with the speed as well. To help with this problem, I use my time manipulation to speed up my thought process and calculate everything easily. To think that someone other than my father could push me like this. He is impressive for a runt. I focus on my palm and concentrate my power on it. I bend my knees and take some water we are fighting on in my palm. Using my experience, I saturate the water with the power of time and add the effect I desire. To think I have to go to such lengths. I then throw the handful of water towards Poseidon and watch as it hits him. I watch as the place where the water hits his body, everything disappears completely. The water passes through his body like it was air. It passed through his body after colliding with it, no matter his sturdiness and durability, completely shredding and goring his body, leaving behind nothing more than an unrecognizable pile of flesh or a bloody mist. I like the look on his face. This is a basic, but very taxing ability of my time manipulation. I pick up objects like dirt, sand, pebbles, water or even the air and stop their time. Then I throw them forward at my enemies like I just did with Poseidon. As the time of these small objects was stopped, the objects effectively acted as anomalies in the world, being cut off from the flow of time. These attacks can't be stopped and kill every time. I look at the shredded figure of Poseidon and laugh. You wanted to defeat me with fluids? You will need more than that, boy. But let me show you something good before you die, I say, and kick the water underneath my feet. By kicking the water which is everywhere around us, I aim to unleash a devastating tsunami. By freezing the water all around in place using my power over time, I can pick it up with my hands, similar to having a mat made out of water. The billions and trillions of tons of water weigh nothing in my hands. I pick up the seemingly infinite amounts of water and other fluids and throw them towards Poseidon, creating a giant tsunami. The tidal wave crushes everything in its path and does not stop until I cut it in half, destroying it in the process, together with Poseidon. Boom. Darkness overwhelms me and I feel pain suddenly. After my eyes finally manage to open, I see that I am flying through the air. With a hard splash, I fall into the water. Something just punched me out of nowhere and I feel that it did a lot of damage. My face is broken and my neck is as well. If I wasn't using my power constantly, that would have defeated me just now. I turn back time and heal myself. After I stand up, I finally see who punched me. At dash, I say but stop when I see a fist in front of my face. Instinctively, I use the move that helped me defeat my father back in the day. Time stop, crack, boom. I forgot that he said, no stasis works here when his power is activated and gets punched in the face again. To think that someone as low as my nephew would dare to punch me in the face twice? You grew stronger. But do you think that this is enough to defeat me? Atlas, I say to the Titan standing in front of me. But he doesn't answer me for some reason. He can't talk. I hear a voice behind me and turn around to see Poseidon. What? How are you, Dash? Alive? I told you everything already. I control the flow of everything. That includes the flow of energy, the flow of life and death. Do you really think that water could ever defeat me, the god of the sea? What is this? Why would Atlas betray me? I ask him. Betray? Oh, you must think this is the real Atlas. Not really. You see, my trident in its sealed state has the power to absorb all types of liquids as well as channel my tremendous life force. When I fought against Atlas, I used my trident to impale him and absorb all of his ichor. This allowed me to materialize him now and have him fight for me. The only downside is that he only has the power he had when I defeated him. This will change in the future, but for now, this is the case. I can however use his powers better than he does, as I understand the flow of his abilities much better than he does, and therefore can use his divinities so much better. My mind almost stops working out of surprise. He can call upon those whose ichor he absorbed using his trident, and he can have them fight for him using their full power. Wait, if you have Atlas then that means... Fruum. A powerful ray of light hits my stomach and drills a hole right through it. Cough dash. I cough blood and quickly use my power to turn back the time on myself and heal the damage done to me. As I thought, he has Hyperion here as well. That is already 2 titans, and since he defeated Oceanus as well, he will turn up soon. Splash. I move to the back and dodge a sneak attack coming from the depths from Oceanus. As I thought, he used the fights against the titans to grow his own power. He never cared about the war, since he knew he would win either way. Eventually, he would have been prepared to fight all of us one-on-one. He has to die, right now. I can't keep postponing this any longer. So I start to channel all of the power I have left. Constantly healing myself and defending myself from his attacks that come from all around, has used more of my reserves than I imagined. But no more. I have to go all out and defeat him and these traitors all at once. I use all of my power to slow it down as much as I can and then go on the offensive. I swing my scythe and attack them, but as I try to cut through Hyperion, who is the biggest threat right now, he simply disappears from my view and a kick at light speed hits my neck, almost killing me there. I control the flow of all things, Cronus, even space-time. You never stood a chance. I hear Poseidon's voice which sounds like we are underwater. I dodge another attack from Atlas and bend time, to stop his attack from hitting me. But the flow of time changes once again and the attack lands. A tsunami crushes me underneath itself and pushes me underwater. There thousands of monsters await me and attack me at the same time. I get cut, punched, pierced, hundreds, thousands of attacks try to kill me and force me to use my powers to revert all damage. Time is no longer under my control, at least not fully. Reality is slipping from my grasp and I feel as if I was slowly drowning and falling deeper and deeper into the depths of the bottomless ocean. As much as I love my initial release of my soul-cutting trident, there are still flaws I will take care of in the future. The enemies I absorb using my trident can't grow when I manifest them with my powers. That is not really good. They will only stay as strong as they were when I killed them, and that is not good. But I have a plan to change that. The true release of my trident doesn't have that power. You see, my true release washes everything that makes my enemies who they are away. They will lose everything and it will be absorbed by he liquids and tides of my powers. So be happy, you get to see it for yourself and join my side, as I take everything from you. My eyes widen as his power explodes out of him and pressures me, making me kneel in front of him. And then he says the words which would be my last. Shinake, cup of flowing existence. The world and all the fluids turn completely and utterly black. Poseidon disappears and I feel myself being pulled in by a growing current. The current begins to grow stronger and it pulls all of the dark liquid into something. I look up and realize that I am inside a ginormous teacup, and holding the cup is Poseidon. His stature has grown to the size of a planet, if not larger. He smiles at me and then raises the cup to his mouth. The last thing I see is his mouth as he swallows all of the liquid inside the cup in one go. Poseidon POV. Ah, that was good. I didn't know that time tasted this spicy. Quite amusing. My Bankai, or rather Shinake or true release, takes many forms. But the main form is the form of a teacup, which drains reality of all of its water and liquid and turns it into a delicious drink, which I can swallow and make my own. It allows me to gain the powers of those who are inside this liquid and give me everything that makes them who they are. But there is another benefit. I will for the Titan of Time to appear before me. And a moment later, Cronus stands before me. This is Cronus but formed from my power. It is the real Cronus and not just a projection of his powers, which I absorbed. This one is the real deal and serves me loyally. Apart from gaining all his powers and memories, soul, and everything else, I also can have him form and fight for me. And the best part? He can grow stronger in this state. Now I only have to start my plan. The future is changing and I will have a hand in it. Chapter 14, New World Order. Third person POV. Cronus lies on the ground, cut apart into hundreds of pieces. Zeus had to somehow vent his frustration and anger, and this was apparently the only way for him to do so. Poseidon had allowed this to happen. Of course, he had. This had been the plan all along, because if he hadn't allowed that to happen, he would have had to answer a lot of questions. But his plans were deeper than just that. The Cronus he had created was the real one with all his powers and abilities, but it was Poseidon's creation. Poseidon's Bankai, or Shinake, allowed him to consume or drink anyone and anything. It allows Poseidon to absorb everything about someone and make it his own. Now, using this power, Poseidon can also manifest those who were absorbed and have them fight for him. These people have the great advantage that they are alive and can actually grow stronger through training, and as long as Poseidon also grows more powerful. Cronus has a job to do. He knew that he would be split into hundreds of pieces and then thrown into the Tartarus. But that was something Poseidon wanted. He needed Cronus in the Tartarus so that he could then have him work from inside. The Tartarus holds an infinite number of monsters which get reborn and are free for the picking. Poseidon could use them for some things he has planned for the future. That's why Cronus will be there to help him acquire them. What now? Hades asks after Zeus got his anger and frustration out of his system. The man-child will never change, Poseidon supposes, and his anger when he found out that it was his brother who defeated Cronus proves that. Nevertheless, Poseidon doesn't care about that. Now, we decide what to do with the Titans and what to do with the open positions that opened up, he tell him. What do you mean? Well, getting rid of the Titans is impossible now that the scythe of Cronus has disappeared. Not that killing them would have been the smartest choice anyway. In fact, getting rid of them will create problems. After Aurano's defeat at the hands of his children, it was the Titans who held up the sky, and now should we banish them to Tartarus, we will have to take care of that. That makes sense, somewhat at least. Then who do you think will take their place? Hades asks. Who knows? But what is certain is that Zeus has a sadistic side to him. He will most definitely want to rule our pantheon. And he will find cruel ways to deal with the Titans. You think he will be king? What about you then? Don't you want to rule as well? Hades asks Poseidon with interest. I already am a king. I have my own dimension, which has a connection to Earth and the God sphere. And you also have the underworld where you will most definitely stay. So you also think I should be banished to that disgusting place? Hades asks a bit aggressively. Why would you not? If it's disgusting now, then change it. You will be the dimension lord anyway, so you decides how it will look. And as soon as Zeus becomes king, you don't want to be on Olympus, trust me on this one. Then you will also not live on Olympus. Not a chance. I am leaving and don't want anything to do with our youngest brother. He will *CK things up and I don't want to take care of his problems. You don't have a high opinion of Zeus. How can you judge him before he even did those things? Instead of answering, Poseidon just looks at Hades for a moment. He closes his eyes, and when he opens them again, he has 3 pupils in both eyes instead of just one. Picture. Because I have seen it. Just like Poseidon had predicted, or knew it would happen, the Titans were sent to Tartarus and the poor fool, Atlas, was condemned to hold up the sky for eternity. After this judgment was over and Zeus could satiate his bloodlust and ego, Mount Othrys was destroyed by him. He wanted to destroy everything his father stood for, and so he would not accept a memory of him. Now it is time for us to choose our next ruler. As the destroyer of Mount Othrys and the one who ended the war against the Titans, I vote for Zeus to be our next ruler and the king of Olympus. It was Métis who said that. Ever the clever woman, she managed to tell the truth and still make it seem like it was Zeus who won the war on his own. Not many knew what happened to Cronus, and from the words of Métis, one could come to the conclusion that it was Zeus who killed him. Poseidon was looking at the happenings with a smile on his face. He was amused by this scene. If he was weaker, or more petty, he would have said something. Had he been interested in ruling the Greek pantheon, he might have done that, but he didn't. He had no interest in dealing with their problems in the future. I vote for Poseidon to be king since it was he who defeated Cronus and allowed us to win this war once and for all. Murmur. Poseidon looked to the man standing on his right. It was Hades who spoke surprisingly. Hades, who preferred to stay hidden and in the background, spoke up for his brother. What are you doing, Hades? The fact that you see such problems coming is enough for me to try and steer the other way. I have no interest in submitting to the faults of my brother. I vote for Hades to be king, as he is the oldest among us brothers and has the most talent in keeping calm. He also has the rare and mythical ability called common sense, so he would be the best choice. This time it was Poseidon who spoke with a smile on his face. It was true, Hades was the eldest brother among them. And if Poseidon spoke for him, then he had to be good, right? Well, the other gods were not sure what to think anymore. Among them, there were two who didn't look amused by this development. Those were Zeus and Métis. Zeus' arrogance couldn't see himself as anything less than the king. He had to be king or he would be left out. There was no way he would ever bow to anyone. He was the strongest after all, right? Not even slightly. The truth of the matter was that Poseidon simply didn't care enough about Zeus to do anything about him. He would live separately from the Greek pantheon, while still having some connections to it. He would do his own thing and not care about the shitstorm that was bound to come. He had his own set of problems that would surely arrive. I disagree. It was Zeus who ended the war and brought an end to this war. He has been taught how to rule from birth and will surely lead us to a great future, Métis says. I call for a vote. Someone shouts. Very well, let us vote. The vote happened, and except for Hades, there were quite a few others who voted for Poseidon. But it seemed only saying that Poseidon defeated Cronus and not showing it was not enough to convince all the other gods. And since it was Hades who said it, it held even less weight. But that was alright for Poseidon. He didn't really care about winning here. He would have declined the result, had he won either way. Hades also didn't get voted king, and so it was Zeus who narrowly took the win to become the king of Olympus. But the festivities and the swearing of loyalty to their new king didn't go as planned. What do you mean, you won't swear? Zeus asks his brother with narrowed eyes. His anger is palpable. It was obvious that Poseidon was not impressed, not in the slightest. The pressure Zeus was generating with his divine power was but a fleeting gale for Poseidon and not interesting. The fight with Cronus was an overwhelming victory for Poseidon. Everything was under his control at all times. So this was nothing. Poseidon smiled charmingly and in amusement. I think I was clear. I won't swear loyalty to you as I don't recognize you as a person of authority. You won't be a good king and I will not be a part of anything you do here on Olympus. I am your king and as such you will give me the respect and loyalty I deserve. Zeus is fuming. You have nothing. Your privilege is the dirt you stand on and the flowery words those weaker than you tell you. But if you want to address me, you have to know how to play in the big leagues. You're behaving like a child, but this is a man's world. So don't talk to me about what you think you deserve or don't. Stay in line and know your place. Zeus was livid. He knew that the voting was technically a farce and that he was weaker than Poseidon, but his anger and ego were clouding his judgment. In his anger, he releases his power and materializes his master bolt. With a powerful swing, he shoots it towards Poseidon. Poseidon on the other hand just stands there and watches as the massive lighting bolt approaches his position. He points his finger towards the lighting and just before the lighting hits his body, it freezes completely. While it may look like Poseidon just used his newly acquired power over time, he didn't. He stays true to his power and uses his divinities of water and vibrations. The other gods and Zeus look at the scene with wide open mouths and eyes. Did you know that to generate lighting, the separation of electric charge and generation of an electric field within a thunderstorm is required? But I also know that ice, hail, and semi-frozen water drops are essential to lightning development. Storms that fail to produce large quantities of ice usually fail to produce lightning. And you think that it is smart to throw a lightning bolt at me? There are so many ways I can deal with this attack. All things follow certain patterns. Even randomness follows a pattern, as it is the opposite of a pattern. I know this might sound complex, but don't worry, you're just not smart enough. I pity you for your foolishness, Zeus. But not as much as I pity all those who will have to suffer because of you in the future. If you attack me again, Zeus, I will give you the same treatment I gave our father. I will take everything away from you and give you the most cruel of endings you can imagine. After saying that, Poseidon taps the lightning bolt with his finger and makes it break into billions of pieces, illuminating the sky above Olympus. I wish you good luck. All of you, you will need it, Poseidon says and then dissipates into the smallest of water drops. Unknown to everyone, a certain someone watched this scene and this someone smiled in ecstasy and delight when he or she saw this. For now and for a very long time, Poseidon would not set foot on Olympus again. Poseidon materialized on the beach of Crete. He looks towards the water and thinks back to the first time he was here. After being rescued by Zeus and punching Atlas, he came here and connected with the fundamental force of the universe, or rather the multiverse, the life force. The clear, sometimes called the blue, is a force which connects and pervades all aquatic life and oceanic-themed elements including the water elementals in general within the universe. The life force is much broader than the clear and encompasses all life in the multiverse as it is a multiversal force. The clear was something Poseidon got a hold of and made his own very quickly. It came very quickly and easily to him as it was like a part of his divinity. Poseidon stood at the beach when he felt the presence of another god appears next to him. He didn't turn around and just continued doing what he was doing. It is quite a view you have here. The soft but at the same time, powerful voice of a woman can be heard as it tickles the ears of Poseidon. Indeed, Poseidon says, "What is the god of the sun and former god king of the Ennead doing here?" Poseidon asks the woman and turns around for the first time. Picture chapter 15, Third person POV. On the hill spouted above the river of chaos, the self-created sun god birthed, the god of moisture Tefnut, the god of air Shu, the god of abundance and fertility Bastet, the god of love and beauty Hathor, the god of truth and justice Mot and the god of catastrophe Sekhmet. His children Tefnut and Shu loved each other. They gave birth to the god of the sky Nut and the god of the earth Geb. Nut and Geb were in love as well and wanted to have a child. However, a prophecy was told during that time, Geb and Nut's child shall rule Egypt. After hearing the prophecy, the sun god became jealous and cursed Nut never to bear any children. Nut, saddened by this, sought out the god of children and wisdom Thoth and asked for assistance. Thoth took pity on Nut and made a wager with the sun god over a game of Senate. Using his wisdom, Thoth won the game and made the sun god cover his eyes for 4 days, as per the agreement of the wager. Using these 4 days, Nut and Geb were sanctioned and they gave birth to the god of life Osiris, the god of magic Isis, the god of harmony Nephthys and the god of war and deserts Set. 4 gods were birthed by the sky and the earth. The god of the sky Nut and the god of the earth Geb. Dividing the sky and the earth were the god of air Shu and the god of moisture. Together with the sun god, creator of all things, these 9 deities were named the Ennead. Hold up, Poseidon interrupts Ra's speech. What is it? I love a good story as much as the next guy, but what does this have to do with why you're here? Oh ho ho, I was getting to that, love. Now where was I? Oh yes. Set, the god of war and deserts ruled the sands and protected Egypt from outside enemies. Nephthys, the god of harmony, opened the people's ears and mouths and put conflict to sleep. Isis the god of magic married Osiris, the god of life. For him, Isis promised to never let the Nile River run dry. Osiris with his influence over life, gave humans longevity and prosperity. The humans fell in love with his absolute power and irreplaceable glory. In front of Osiris, not even Ra goddess of the sun could interfere and soon enough the rule of Egypt passed over to Osiris. However, one day, the god of catastrophe came to visit Egypt which had only known peace. Catastrophe whispered jealousy into Set's ears. Gripped by jealousy, Set chopped his brother into 9 pieces and dumped them into the Nile. He then went to Isis and called himself king of Egypt and demanded to share her bed. However, having seen Osiris' corpse within the Nile, Isis rejected Set and cursed him. In the end, Isis was imprisoned in a labyrinth for that crime. Hearing this, the god of harmony Nephthys went to find her and whispered to her the way out of the labyrinth. After knowing the correct path, Isis escaped and hasn't been seen since then. Again, why are you telling me this? Poseidon asks her. Haha, I thought it would interest you. This way you get to know me and we grow closer. Aha, and pray tell, why would I want that? Why wouldn't you? I can see it in your eyes, you are very much interested and I am as well, so why don't we skip all the useless foreplay and just admit it and spend some time together? Poseidon looked at Ra. The moment she had appeared next to him, he had started to use a pool of inspiration, to gain information about her. And what he saw was indeed interested him. He saw that she had some real character and while she wanted to stay king of the Ennead, she was not petty. Like most gods, she was rather bored, but she didn't go and have intercourse with anything she saw. She didn't have any intercourse at all, for that matter. She carries her emotions on her face and likes to laugh over what the other gods get up to. She's very wily, and jokingly attempts to tease out confessions from others. She doesn't respect personal space, and often moves quickly into the spaces of others to intimidate them or like now, show interest. All in all, Poseidon was interested, that much was true. A small smile appeared on his face and shortly after a similar smile appeared on Ra's face. Ha, very well. Since I got to know something about you, I guess it is only fair that you get to know something about me. I was born Dash. I already know that. You do? Well, then how about my fight against Dash? Already know that as well. Really? Then what don't you know? I know almost everything. The only thing I don't know is what you did when you worked on your trident. Like many others, it used to be a divine weapon, but after you did something, it changed and became something else entirely. It has the same feeling to it as you do. So what is it? Ra asks very interested. Now, that's just an invasion of privacy. My trident is a soul cutter weapon. It is basically a representation of my soul in the form of a weapon. That's it. Truly? Magnificent. Say, could you create one for me as well? Why would I do that? We don't know each other nearly long enough to present our souls to one another. Oh, but you would do it then, after we know each other for longer. Who knows? Now, I am going since I want to visit my kingdom. It was nice to meet you, Ra, Poseidon says and is about to walk into the water, when a hand stops him from leaving. Where do you think you're going? I am obviously coming with you. Why is that obvious? Did you not hear? I am going to my kingdom. You would hold no authority there and would be very vulnerable against attacks from my side. That's rather reckless of you. I have decided to do it. As for the reason, that is mine alone. Aha, well if that is the case, then come, Poseidon says and materializes his trident. With a wave of his hand, the trident turns into a large calligraphy brush and he begins to write in the sky. The word he wrote was, portal. The ink transformed and inside the circle, the space started to get distorted. After a moment, the view changed and a beautiful palace was seen. Please, after you, Poseidon says and motions for Ra to walk in first. She smiles and does just that without questioning him or looking scared. She just walks in. What greets the two is the kingdom inside the separate dimension Poseidon created for him and his followers. Picture. What is that? Ra asks in surprise pointing at the ginormous structure in the sky. Oh, that's the first ship from my personal navy, Poseidon says with pride. Picture. That is a ship? That, ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha, that suits you perfectly for some reason, Ra says and starts to laugh. She seemed to be really amused about something, but Poseidon could tell that it wasn't just the ship. It was something else, like she could laugh for the first time in a long time. No matter how cliché it sounded, in that moment, when Ra laughed genuinely, Poseidon thought he saw the sun rise in the dimension. However, unlike a cliché, he by no means fell into a daze like some love-struck fool. He smiled seeing her genuine reaction and then continued the tour. Yes, I think I will like it here, Ra says after they finish the tour. Huh? What are you talking about? Isn't it obvious? I am going to live here. Do you think you can invite yourself like this? Who do you think I am? I think you would like it if I lived here. Whether or not I will like something, is not for you to decide. I will invite you when I choose to and only if I choose to, not a moment sooner. Don't take me for another weak god like my siblings or your children, Poseidon says and his aura explodes out of himself. Ra also uses her aura to counter Poseidon. The clash causes the realm to shake. Neither of them backs down and they both increase their powers at the same time. But not even Ra, goddess of the sun and former god king of the Ennead, has limitless energy and power. Poseidon is another beast entirely. And after a while, his aura dwarfs Ra's. However, before Ra gets hurt, the clash stops and calmness returns to the realm. I never expected you to allow me to live here right away. Good, cause that won't happen. How about a drink? Ra asks. A drink? Yay, as the host, you should offer me some refreshments. That's common decorum after all. True, that is how it usually goes. What would you like to drink? Ra POV. Time passed in the world and the years ticked by without anyone noticing. During that time, a lot of things changed in the Greek pantheon, but not in mine the Ennead. Set was still killing humans whenever he wished and the rest were far too weak to do anything about it. As strange as it sounded, Poseidon and I grew closer and had many dates, as he called it. Poseidon wasn't interested in a quick sexual relationship. He could get laid whenever he wanted if that was his goal, but he had other plans and projects that interested him. From the moment I first felt the change in the world, I knew he would be special. It was what made me watch his life like mine dependent on it. He was indeed special. I was a very persistent woman and I just wouldn't leave Poseidon alone. No matter how powerful Poseidon got, it was seemingly impossible for him to dodge me or ignore me. I would always find ways back into his life and continue bothering him. It was the only way he would give me any attention. I was working towards something different, without even realizing it, but it wasn't really working. So Poseidon would be the one who showed me what he was working on and the new things he added to his kingdom. It was those moments that I enjoyed the most. The kingdom was continuously growing and more people were asking Poseidon for mercy and to let them live in his kingdom. The reason for this was obvious. After humans grew to become the dominant species on the planet, the gods found out about their faith and the power it brought. For this reason, they didn't eradicate them and instead just abused them whenever they wanted. Humans were cattle to them and the gods would punish them or *PE them or kill them, whenever they wanted. The god of the sea, earthquakes, vibrations, waves, life, linguistics and horses, Poseidon was the only exception to the rule. He and his brother Hades, but the humans feared the god of the underworld far too much to respect him. All those who wanted to live in Poseidon's kingdom had to swear fealty and absolute loyalty towards him and his family. He used his power to enforce those things and even set up documents to prove them. In the documents, he introduced very harsh punishments for those who broke the contracts. As the god of linguistics, Poseidon had great power over words of any kind, written or spoken. I don't understand how he did it, or where that power came from. I know that he believes it comes from his divinity of the sea and his power to control all liquids, as well as ink. From manipulating ink, he got the idea of using it to write and add power to the things he wrote. And somehow, he thinks that was enough to gain another divinity. I do agree though, he was magnanimous enough to grant the humans speech and language, written and spoken. I am still waiting for him to finally notice me for real. In my long life, for the first time, I am working towards something, someone that I want and I can't just take. Osiris took the throne of Egypt from me, but I didn't really care about it enough to do something about it. But now, I see something that I want and I will not stop until he at least thinks about it. I hope we can connect more like we have during this time. But I won't force anything, it wouldn't help anyway. Chapter 16, New Additions. Hephaestus POV. What are you two working on? I hear Ra's voice as she sits next to father, putting her arms around his neck. I call it Fishman Island. A place of harmony where everyone is welcome who adheres to the rules we set up, he says. And since you don't allow anyone inside your kingdom, who you or someone you trust didn't personally allow inside, that won't be a problem, Ra says and smiles. What do you think? Poseidon asks her. Picture. It is remarkable like everything you do, Ra laughs and pecks him on the cheek. I have come to appreciate Ra and her antics. She is a sunshine, which makes sense as she is the mighty sun god of the Ennead. How two gods who represented such different aspects of reality and weren't even in the same pantheon, could find one another, is beyond me. But for some reason, it works and they are very close. I see them as my parents and why wouldn't I? It has been roughly a decade since I was born. Zeus the god king of the Greek pantheon was an unfaithful husband to his second wife, Hera. My mother, the goddess of marriage, suffered greatly from the many sexual relationships and children which resulted from those. After one time, when Zeus once again lay with someone, Hera was very angry and quarreled with him. And because of this strife, she bore me without union with Zeus. Hera threw me off of Olympus because of my congenital impairment. Can you imagine? Your own mother throwing you away. When I suffered much at the time of my great fall because Hera wanted to hide me for being lame, I was saved. I fell for an entire day into the ocean and my soul would have taken damage had I not been saved by Thetis and Eurynome. Thetis, daughter of Nereus and one of the 50 Nereids, and the Oceanid Eurynome, daughter of the former Titan Oceanus. They cared for me and treated me as well as they could. But after a few days, they decided to bring me somewhere safe, as they called it. I had no idea where they would bring me and I was a bit scared when I heard them talk. For some reason, Eurynome wasn't happy about the idea Thetis had. I could tell that she was scared and now in retrospect, her fear made perfect sense. She was there when her family and soldiers fought against Poseidon and were utterly decimated. I could understand her deep-rooted fear, but when I first met the man, I couldn't understand it. Thetis and Eurynome brought me into the ocean and swam deep down, further down than even light was able to shine through. After swimming through the deep water, we eventually reached the deepest bottom and the most wonderful sight greeted me. An underwater city. It was almost a metropolis and the design and architecture baffled me. I was in awe the entire way. I was amazed that I could breathe and see normally, but still swim around as if I was underwater. There were lanes for public transportation and all kinds of inhabitants. After we made our way through the city, we arrived at a heavily guarded area. Thetis told me that was the only way into the kingdom of Poseidon. When she said that name for the first time, I felt that there was power inside the name. Like saying the name carelessly would have consequences. I asked Thetis and Eurynome about it and they confirmed my suspicion. Only those worthy of it can say his name and still keep their voice. Unworthy would either lose their voice or get punished more severely. The reason why Eurynome didn't say his name was that she was scared. As a daughter of Oceanus, a former enemy of Poseidon, she didn't dare see if she was worthy. She also didn't live in the kingdom of Poseidon and only resided in the city of Hydropolis. The guards who protected the portal were some of the most powerful I have ever seen. To this day, I don't think I can defeat them without my most powerful tools, and even then, I am uncertain of the outcome. I found out later that the guards can grow stronger as well as long as they train. It was thanks to Poseidon that they had this ability. After testing Thetis with a device, I still don't know how it functions. We were both led inside. And what I saw, it blew my young god's mind. I malfunctioned for a moment and even Thetis was surprised at the changes in the short time she wasn't there. First, Thetis brought me to one of her apartments. It was a very lovely complex of rooms she could design herself after a template which was provided by Poseidon himself. Picture. Thetis told me back then that there were billions of templates to choose from, and she went with that one. After getting a better dress and getting me special clothes as well, we were finally off to see the infamous Poseidon, whom I had heard so much about. I couldn't help but wonder at the extravagant dress Thetis wore, but she just said that it wasn't enough and she hoped she could still look somewhat presentable. We moved to an official building that had many officials inside it who handled most things concerning the organization of the kingdom. I was surprised to see all forms of creatures there, not just nymphs or nereids. There were animals, beasts, and even minor gods, who worked. Gods? Yeah, that is nothing unusual in this kingdom. If you live here, you are also working. It doesn't matter what you are working on, it could be anything. Flashback. Yes? How may I help you? The woman at the desk asked Thetis as we approached. We would like an audience with His Majesty, Poseidon, Thetis says. After she drops the P word, it is like she cursed the most terrible word in existence and everyone looks at her. Now I am interested in that reaction. Is the King Poseidon a terrible person? Should I be afraid now? Did Thetis trick me? Will I get hurt again? And the reason for such a request, the woman asks. Tell him that his nephew is here to see him. It is of utmost importance, but only if he can make the time, Thetis says. Naturally. Let me have a looky. That's strange, the woman says. What's wrong? Thetis asks. It looks like you are already expected. What? Are you? I see. Very well, so what should we do now? The best course of action is to take the royal train and meet the representative of the king there. Everything else will be discussed then and I have no information about it. Understood. Come, Hephaestus, this way, Thetis tells me and we are led to a vehicle that doesn't apparently is called a train. I don't know why it has that name since it doesn't look like a train and I should know, as crafts are my thing. It looks like a strange ship, but elegant. Picture. Thetis and Hephaestus, is that right? A man asks us after we enter the ship. Yes. Please this way, he says and leads us to a special room, with a marvelous view. If you would like, this is our restaurant. Usually, the royal envoys dine here, so the food is remarkable. If you prefer to rest now, that is also possible, the man tells us. Thetis looks unsure about what to do and looks at me. I must have a hopeful look on my face as I have never had any food except the seafood Thetis and Eurynome gave me. So this is new for me. Sigh very well. The ride was the best thing that has ever happened to me. The food was so good, I almost cried and everyone was so nice to me and Thetis. Everyone seemed to be happy about their lives here and I couldn't help but hope for the best. Thetis and Hephaestus, I hope you had a nice stay with us. We have arrived at the official palace of His Majesty. The view is remarkable, if you would like to have a look, the man returns and informs us. We walk on the balcony and look outside. He is right, the view is unbelievable. Picture. How can the ship move up the waterfalls, I ask. Whatever our king does, works without fail. His power is higher than we can imagine. So we stopped asking how things work, Thetis answers. She is in awe as well, I can tell. She was never here it would seem. Something within me is urging me to find out how things are created. After a short while, we arrive and are led to a grand hall, where we wait for an official of Poseidon to arrive. Oh, visitors. How nice, we hear the feminine voice of someone and look up. One of the most beautiful women I have ever seen stands there, more beautiful than mother. She has brown skin and a sensual body. Every move of her screams elegance and power. She reminds me of the rising sun for some reason. The woman arrives in front of us, in her beautiful blue dress and looks me in the eyes. Picture. Now who do we have here? She smiles. Flashback end. That was the first time I met Ra. She is very playful, especially with Poseidon. While he is a very charismatic man, Poseidon is more of a quiet and powerful observer, at least that's what it appears. Unlike other gods, he is very active and is doing something most of the time. He spends a lot of time with Ra, and while I have no idea what their relationship is exactly, they are most likely in love. But I could be wrong about that. I met Poseidon sometime after Ra. She was the one to introduce us. He smiled when he saw me like Ra did as well. They didn't care about my appearance or the limb, they saw me for who I was and accepted me. Poseidon took me in and taught me almost everything I know. He is my father and Ra my mother, in all but name, and I will be thankful for them both my entire existence. I was given more and more responsibility. Our newest project, Fishman Island, introduces a home for the new race, Poseidon created, the fish people, fishmen and fishwomen. And it has turned out amazing. Father's imagination seems boundless and he likes to add themes to everything he does. And until now, not one thing has the same theme as another. He is so creative and I hope to one day be as creative as he is. Picture. So do we have a house here? Ra asks playfully. Why would you need a house here as well? Aren't the other mansions enough for you? Father answers her just as playfully. Poo, you know I am a flexible woman in need of change. Come on, show me. Haha, alright. I might have created a home for us to live in. Poseidon smiles. Aha, I knew it. So Poseidon and I spent hours showing off what we had created. It was mostly Poseidon's work, but he told Ra that I was also involved in the process. Ra saw right through Poseidon, she always did, but that wasn't a problem for him. He wasn't like other gods I had come to learn about, who felt threatened whenever someone was better or smarter than they were in an area. He wasn't petty at all and enjoyed Ra's antics. He once told me that every victory of hers was also one of his. Despite not being clear about their relationship, they have to love each other, right? I don't know. Our enjoyable time is interrupted however as a messenger arrives. My king, a message has arrived. Hermes. Yes, my king. He claims to have news for you from his father, Zeus. Should we send him away? No. Teleport him to the throne room. We will await him there and add the security seals to him before you send him there, Poseidon says. As you command. Oh, are you going to meet someone in the throne room again finally? No. We will. We? What do you mean? Come, I'll show you, Poseidon says. He grabs her hand and they disappear from Fishman Island, leaving me alone here. I should find someone as well. Chapter 17, Humanity's Peril. Poseidon POV. Over the course of my life and this century, I have continued to use my pool of inspirations to their fullest. I am not arrogant to think that now, as the Greeks' most powerful god, I am something special. After the Titanomachy, I was not even at a primordial level in power. I was a bit of a special case though, since I had used 2 of my pools of inspiration to increase the quality and quantity of my divine energy. So while my power output wasn't as great as a primordial's, my energy levels and quality were already up there. My connection with the fundamental force of life, the life force, grew constantly thanks to another pool of inspiration. I was glad that I could use them passively, as it would have robbed me of a lot of my free time. I had projects to do and people to meet. There was no time for me to isolate myself and train. Besides, there was another thorn in my side that would have never allowed me to isolate myself. Ra. To call her a thorn is wrong of course, but she was always there since the day I first met her. I knew that she used to value her former power as God King, but for some reason, she didn't care anymore. Without noticing, I found myself enjoying her company and over the years, even needing her presence. Not in a simp kinda way, more in a way you need the sun to rise after a good night's rest. You would live without it no problem, but it is just more enjoyable with it. After realizing her intentions and understanding my feelings, I allowed myself to let go of my reservations somewhat. Just so much, that some trust could be built. And I haven't regretted it in the slightest. She was indeed the heat to my cool. While we aren't officially married yet, we are as close as can be. Soon, I will make a move, but I still have time. At least that's what I believe. Unlike what I used to read, RA doesn't pressure me into doing something she wants. She is not pushy at all and I like that. Despite her look, she isn't interested in betting every hot piece of ass she sees. I can tell that she is indeed interested in me and I am as well, but she prefers to take things slow. Which is what we did. We both enjoy the setting sun and most of the time we eat or drink something while we enjoy the last rays of it. For my wedding present, I will create her own soul-cutting sword. There are a few ideas I have, which will prove to be very powerful. But more on that later, when the time comes. Apart from the life force and my divine energy, I used the pools of inspiration also to gain the powers and abilities of other characters I knew about. All of them had something to do with my divinities. I hadn't really invested much time in developing my ice powers. The ice aspect of my divinity was neglected somewhat during my time in the Titanomachy and I wanted to change that. So I used the pools to gain the abilities and powers of two very powerful ice users. Toshiro Hitsugiya. Picture. And Rukia Kukiki. Picture. But I of course took things to another level and improved upon everything until I was satisfied. Now, freezing any liquid to absolute zero is as easy as snipping my fingers. I also got all the powers of Ichibe Hyasub, Monako Asho, the monk who calls the true name. Picture. I was able to advance my divinity further and reach into a completely new one, the divinity of linguistics thanks to that. Finally, I used the pools of inspiration to gain the abilities of another person. I knew this character from another story called Legend of the Northern Blade. The person I used the pool on was the strongest character of the story, at least when I read it. Moyong Yulchin, the invincible warrior. Picture. He used the power of vibrations by giving his energy that property. It is an ingenious way of martial arts and I enjoyed it. Besides it gave me chi, the energy they used in that world and his martial arts 9 everlasting spirit divine art. Chi immediately fused with my power and the life force I held inside my body. The biggest change that happened was that my power and divine energy were now completely separate from the faith of others. I will continue to grow with faith, but as it fades, it won't make me weaker anymore. Yeah, that happened. Since I gained Moyong Yulchin's abilities, I started to use a similar long pipe. But instead of smoking, I puff steam through it. I don't know why, but it just is something I enjoy doing. I add pleasant smells to the steam. My body has also gone through a metamorphosis and now, I am much more lean. My muscles are as compact as can be. Overall, I grew much more powerful over the years, as I also advanced the power I held over the aspect of time. But more on that later. This is the throne you created for me? Wait, why is the throne? RA looks at the throne I created for her in confusion. Since placing the throne next to mine like that, is equal to seeing her as an equal. And in my eyes, she has waited long enough for me not to admit it. She is equal to me, not in power, but in authority at least. The throne is not yet fully linked to her power and the kingdom as a whole, but that will be taken care of in the future. She understands the implications as well and embraces me tightly. We share a moment and then sit down on our thrones. I allow for the space to be breached and in the next moment, Inkwell appeared with an ink-covered Hermes in front of us. My king, I have brought the one you wanted, Hermes the messenger god, Inkwell says and then disappears again. The ink of Inkwell renders the powers of anyone mute for as long as his ink is on them. And since both RA and I are here, there is nothing to fear. I look at the herald of the gods in amusement and let out a large amount of steam from my mouth, filling the room with sweet-smelling scents. But the steam has another ability as well. It seals the space we are in completely. I don't want Hermes to run off and do any damage, so better to take care of it beforehand. Well, what can I do for you, nephew? I ask. Hermes POV. Well, what can I do for you, nephew? I hear Poseidon ask. He looks at me with that apathetic look that I have known since the first meeting we had. He has never shown another expression, at least to me. Aunt Hestia told me once that Poseidon used to smile and care for his siblings and for some he still does. Hades is very close to Poseidon, according to Aunt Hestia at least, while Zeus has fallen from Poseidon's good graces. Nothing is connecting father with Poseidon anymore, except their blood. I make sure not to mention Poseidon when I am in father's presence. This task I have been given now, to speak to my uncle, was hard for Zeus. I think he ordered me to do this because he likes to order Uncle Poseidon around. I am old enough to know that it won't work though. Uncle, I come bringing the god king of the Olympians, Zeus message. He has, well. Go on, Hermes. Tell me what the Zapper told you. Well, he has asked for you to come to Olympus for an important business, I managed to say. Ask? Zeus has asked for me to come. Yes. That's right. Is that so? Well then, I guess since he asked, I can decline. Good talk, nephew, and thanks for coming. You may leave, Poseidon says, and waves his hand. I can feel his power about to shoot me away and try to run away before it can hit me. The task I got from father was clear, but I couldn't do that if he threw me out at this moment. However, as I try to use my speed, nothing happens and I realize to my dismay, that none of my powers are working. I looked up to meet my uncle's eyes and realized that he knew what I wanted to do. I begin to sweat and can't stop under his gaze. It feels like a mountain is on my shoulders. I admit that he didn't say asked but ordered. However, I knew that you would never come if I said that, so I changed it slightly. And how can I believe any of your messages if you change them slightly? So why don't you tell me honestly what is going on and why I am ordered to arrive on Olympus, he asks me. Gulp. As you wish. It all started with Prometheus some time ago. Zeus realized something of great importance to the gods. He understood that we grow more powerful, the more humans believe in us. Their faith makes us grow more powerful, and this is something my father, Zeus, wanted to take advantage of. So to do that, he asked Prometheus to create more and make them prosper just enough to give us gods more power. Prometheus succeeded in doing that. But then things took a turn for the worse. As it happened, Prometheus took a liking to the humans and started to love them. He helped them more than he was supposed to and even asked Zeus for more things to make them proper. Zeus agreed to most things, but then, Prometheus asked for the humans to have fire, to keep them warm and cook their meals. That was too much and Zeus disagreed. No matter what Prometheus said, Father didn't budge on this matter. Prometheus wasn't happy with that and knew that without fire, humans would have a very hard time. So he went to Olympus and stole some of our fire. Zeus was furious. He was so furious that he decided to punish Prometheus. Prometheus is to have his liver eaten by an eagle every single day, only to have the liver regrown and then be eaten again the next. For a time, Zeus watched the humans and saw that they had potential. He took a liking to them at first. But then, the humans stopped giving him as much respect as he deserved and Zeus grew increasingly angry. Recently Zeus was disrespected and has therefore decided to do something about humanity as a whole. As you are well aware, he asked you to hand out his son to him, so that he could work for Olympus, but you disagreed. The reason Zeus wanted that was that he had plans to create a woman. He found others to do it. The Cyclops and Hakantakirs were willing, after Zeus talked with them. So now, Pandora, that is her name, has been created and Zeus wants all of us to give her some gifts before she is led into the world. Phew. Poseidon exhales more steam and makes me sweat. The woman next to him, who had been smiling until a moment ago, is now looking rather serious. I don't know why she is looking at me that way, as I am just the messenger, but I am afraid she will jump on me. Is there a problem? I ask. Why should there be a problem? No, but you look like you want to hurt me. Oh, you have a good eye. Wait a minute. I am just the messenger. Well, too bad for you, because here, everyone is held accountable for what he or she says. So that excuse won't help you here. What? I look at Poseidon, who is still exhaling steam. Finally, he says something. So it seems, Zeus' pride has suffered so much that he wishes to punish all humans for it. And Pandora will be manipulated to bring peril to humanity and then blame herself for it. Yes, that does sound like something he would do. Pity, I hoped he would change over the years. Come now, love. You know he wouldn't. A figure of speech. I know he wouldn't, but still hoped he would. You may leave, Hermes, Poseidon says and waves his hand again. I feel the immeasurable pressure push me away and I arrive outside of the portal again. Boom. I hate coming here. Chapter 18, My Box. RAPOV. I look at Poseidon as he stares into the distance. I can tell that he is unhappy with the situation, but over the years he has gotten into the god mentality. Nothing much phases him anymore and he prefers to think about everything and not act hasty. It is surprising to me, that to this day, so many gods act on impulse and feelings despite being immortal and living forever. But he is different. He has started to smoke, or rather to steam, as he likes to call it. At first, I thought it was ridiculous until he smiled at me like he does when he finds out a secret or knows more than I do. A smile I came to love. After he realized how I felt about it, he added scents and special effects to the steam. Now his steam is less dense when he is around me and has the sweetest smells. He also added special effects to the steam, like it being able to lift one's spirit or calm one's mind. I know he has more ideas on how to use it, and I do too, but it was too soon. Now things are looking different. He created a throne for me, next to his. That is equivalent to proposing, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Again he had that smile on his face. I almost devoured him right there but managed to stop myself using all my willpower. The messenger god was ejected from the kingdom and now Poseidon is thinking about the situation. He is not thinking about whether or not to go to Olympus, he is far too powerful for that. He isn't really part of that pantheon anymore. But he still has a close relationship with Hades and Hestia. I find it marvelous how he can look so apathetic but have so much charisma that he manages to befriend Hades, who is a god of the dead and underworld. I am certain that despite his words, he would also have a closer relationship with Zeus and especially Hera, but they don't allow it and are jealous. And despite his charisma, Poseidon is still a powerful god and naturally has his pride. He wouldn't allow anyone to walk over him. Finally, I see the light in his eyes. He has decided. You decided what you want to do, I ask him. I did. And it involves you. He smiles at me. What did you plan this time? I believe it is time for the world to know who my woman is, he says. Is that so? So you are finally committing. What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. That mind bitch of a niece you have has the hots for you ever since she saw you the first time, I say casually. I try not to sound jealous, as that is not attractive and doesn't suit a former god king like I am. But he sees right through me. You mean Athena? Come now, you know that she is merely interested in our large library and the knowledge it contains. I know you aren't that dense, Poseidon. And if you are, then let me tell you. As a woman, I can tell that she is eyeing you badly. No matter what nonsense she is spouting about being a virgin goddess, she would jump at you the first chance she gets. And I believe you know that, which is why you want to take me with you. I smile at the end. You are the smartest woman I know. So are you ready? Sure, let's go. Pandora POV. Darkness, that's all I know from before I opened my eyes for the first time. My father, Zeus, is amazing. He gave me life and allowed me to see what he rules over. I can't help but marvel at his beauty and the strength I feel from him. I look around the marvelous hall I am in and don't have anything I can say. It is beautiful. Hello child. Your name is Pandora, my father says to me. Pandora. I created you, so that you may go and live among the humans. You are our present to them and you will carry great importance in the future, father tells me. What should I do? Nothing. Just live among them and enjoy yourself. Everything will be revealed in time. I see. I will do as you wish, father. Before you will be sent to live among humans, you will receive gifts from each of us, father tells me. He holds his hand above my head and I feel his power affect me. I have already gifted you life, but I will also beauty, charm, and the ability of persuasion. But this is the most important gift of all. This box. Protect it with your life. Now everyone else may also gift you something, father says and looks at the other gods. A beautiful woman steps forward. Each of her movements is filled with grace. She touches my cheek and smiles strangely. I am Hera, the queen of the gods and Zeus's wife. I will gift you with curiosity and clothe you in beautiful garments, Hera says and waves her other hand. The most beautiful garments appear around me and clothe me. Beautiful, I say. Indeed child. After this, another beautiful woman approaches me. Unlike Hera, she feels like she is full of knowledge and wisdom. But she also feels like she is strong and powerful, ready for a fight. I am Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare. I will gift you Pandora various skills, including making wise decisions and how to weave. My mind felt freer and I gained the knowledge of weaving and how to make clothes. I bowed my head to the two women and then saw another one approach. Thinking about the other two goddesses, she is even more beautiful, which is hard to believe. I am the one and only Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. I will grant you grace and desire. You will be known as one of the most beautiful women to walk the earth. Thank you, goddess, I say in a daze. Before I can realize what is happening, another male god stands in front of me. He has wings on his shoes and is very fast. He smiles mischievously. Hermes is the name, the messenger god. I shall give you a cunning mind and the ability to deceive. After that, no one comes forward anymore and I stand there next to Hermes, the herald of the gods. I look around and see the rather angry look of father as he observes me and Hermes. Hermes, did you do what I told you? Father asks. Indeed, Lord Zeus. I visited Poseidon in his kingdom. I told him about your summons, but I am unsure whether he would truly arrive here, or when. He will come. Despite his apathetic appearance and arrogant eyes, he cares about humans and will not allow them to go through this alone. Otherwise, he would go against his words and that would wound his pride. He will come, Zeus says. I don't understand. What do humans have to go through? And why does Poseidon have to be here? I agree, Poseidon will arrive shortly. It is in his character to arrive for this moment, Athena says. Oh, if the smart prissy Athena says so, then it has to be true. Ha ha ha. Silence Ares? We can't all be mindless brutes like you. You better not open your mouth before we see the cobwebs you have for a brain, Athena says and closes her eyes. Vroom. A powerful pressure is released from Ares and his eyes burn with fire as he looks at the goddess Athena. Say that again, wench. Call me wench one more time and I shall cut off your testicles, idiot, Athena threatens and releases her own pressure to counteract Ares. Before I am about to pass out, a loud bang is heard. Boom. Enough, shouts Zeus and flares his own power at his children. His eyes shine bright blue in anger and lighting dances around his body. Just as this is going on, something else happens at the other end of the big throne room. A lot of steam materializes from nowhere and in the next moment. Puff. Well, are you demonstrating your control over your loving family, brother? A very pleasant voice is heard from the steam. The large hall is filled with a pleasant scent that permeates from the steam. It feels like I am sitting at the beach and a cool breeze gently touches my face. I am filled with happiness and vigor after smelling this and can't wait to see the person who did that. After the steam rises into the air, another throne becomes visible. And on the throne, two people sit. A man and a woman. The woman sits on the man's lap. The man is sitting on the throne in a relaxed manner, almost lying there and has one hand behind the woman's hips and in his other, he holds a pipe that emits steam. Picture. The woman looks beautiful and powerful at the same time. She is a tall and muscular woman with warm brown skin. She has long, dark hair that cascades down her back in waves nearly to her ankles, and two tresses of her hair rest over her shoulders and end in round golden scrolls. She has gold, red, and black markings around her eyes, and wears thick red lipstick. Her nails are painted black and her eyes are golden and seem to glow. She wears a beautiful one-piece blue dress, that accentuates her curves perfectly. Poseidon, father says in a low growling voice. It seems that father doesn't like Poseidon for some reason. Poseidon is a tall and very muscular man. His face is completely apathetic and devoid of any emotion, with golden blonde hair as well as light blue almost white irises. He dons an ornamental patterned golden choker and dark blue clothing with a golden border that covers the entire upper half of his body, revealing his very ripped abdomen and chest. Despite not having as big muscles as Ares, his are much more defined and ripped, while being rather lean. There are tattoos on his body that seem to tell different stories. Additionally, beneath the coat, he wears a pair of baggy pants that match the cloth on his arms, tucked into a pair of seaweed-colored boots with designs similar to those of ancient ruins in the ocean depths. I see his gaze moving around the room like a ball on top of the water until his eyes land on me. Both the woman and Poseidon stand up and walk towards me. So you must be Pandora. You're quite the beauty. Leave it to Zeus to create something he would **ck, Poseidon says and pats my head affectionately. The woman kneels to my eye level and cups my cheek, similar to how Hera did it. But this time, I feel her care for me unlike before. You are truly a beauty. Say, do you want to come with us? She asks me. Without realizing what I am doing, my head moves up and down. Boom. Chapter 19, Yoink. Pandora POV. Boom. I suddenly feel power unlike I have ever felt fill the hall and pressure me into the ground. Unbridled fear overcomes me and I feel how my body is about to break into thousands of pieces. But before that can happen, a hand touches my shoulder and as quickly as the pressure arrives, it is gone again. I see the woman smiling at me and the steam coming from Poseidon's pipe surrounding me and holding the pressure off. What's the matter, Zeus? Poseidon asks while looking disinterested. You dare to come here late and then you even dare to bring this woman with you? A goddess from another pantheon, Zeus shouts and his power shakes the halls. So, I don't see a problem with that. I am your king. You will do as I say. You really need to relax there, Zeus. Because I thought I told you last time, that you don't have a right to anything. I will do as I wish and those under my care will be under my protection. Poseidon starts to walk towards Zeus with slow steps and continues to smoke. She will go down there and do what I created her for. Zeus' eyes shine bright blue and sparkle with electricity. You will not take her anywhere. She has her own free will. She can decide where she wants to go. She does not. I say what she does and what not, Zeus says through clenched teeth. Truly? I see. Then how about my wife and I give her some gifts as well? What do you think, dear? Poseidon asks the woman. Sure, love. Let's do that. Wife? She is a former god king. From another pantheon, Zeus shouts. What? Why? You can't do that. This time it is Athena who says that. So, I fell in love with her and don't care about her heritage. Her origin is no concern of mine. All I care about is that we care for each other and that's enough. So you better deal with it, cause you might not get invited to the wedding at this rate. I warn you, Poseidon, Zeus says but Poseidon just waves him off. You're right. You're already not invited. Too bad for you. I look at father and see that he is fuming. Not much and he will explode. You go first, dear, Poseidon tells Ra who is smiling very brightly. Very well. I, goddess of the sun and soon to be queen of the kingdom of the rising tides, gift you Pandora with a strong heart and the ability to rise when the night seems unending. May your dreams burn brightly inside your heart and fuel your endeavors. A bright light could be seen when she said those words to me and a warm feeling spread inside my stomach. She is so gentle and nice to me and I don't even know her. A great gift, my love. Then let me add to that. Since my wife gifted you a strong heart with burning ambition, I shall grant you a strong mind and will, to stand tall against all odds. I shall grant you the ability to use your will and weaponize it, fighting against your destiny and being free, to never stop and follow the flow of times. You will do no such thing, Zeus shouts and shoots towards Poseidon, with speed so fast, that I don't even see him. Boom. Athena POV. That was too much. I listen to the gifts of the sun god Ra and then Poseidon grants Pandora and understand something. I know that Zeus' plant would either not work or at least not as intended. Those are powerful gifts for a mere human like Pandora. I feel Zeus' power explode out of him and he shoots towards Poseidon. Boom. His speed is more than half the speed of light right now. I know he has gotten faster and stronger over time. The reason for that phenomenon is unknown to me, but I'll find out soon enough. Boom. Both of them crash through the walls and destroy the room. Apollo, Ares, Hermes, Aphrodite, Hera, and I move to watch the fight. Zeus shocks Poseidon with his lightning while pushing him through the floor and all sorts of buildings on Olympus. Boom. Boom. Baya. They are moving too fast for me to see their facial expressions but I can feel Zeus' anger as it affects all of Olympus. I see Ares next to me having a maniac and almost euphoric look on his face. He loves this. I find him disgusting. I look over to Ra, that foreign pantheon wench, who managed to get close to Poseidon despite me fitting him much better. And now he wants to marry her. She reminds me more of Aphrodite than a former god queen. As I watch her, she suddenly looks at me and smiles. That slut? She's making fun of me. I turn away from her and continue to watch the destruction going on. Honestly, I am disappointed in this fight. But just as I get more and more disappointed, something happens. Poseidon plants his feet on the ground, stopping his momentum and bends his upper body back 90 degrees. He grabs Zeus' arms with his hands and then uses Zeus' momentum against him to throw him away in one fluid motion. Zeus crashes into the building behind them and Poseidon stands there as if nothing happened. His clothes don't even look damaged from all that lighting Zeus was using. Poseidon still looks at Zeus with his usual apathetic face, but this time, I also see a hint of amusement. Zeus jumps into the air from the debris, lighting is coating his entire body and crackling in the air. He pulls back his fist and then descends on Poseidon's position. Boom! An explosion takes place, but Poseidon isn't hit. Instead, Zeus' fist hits the ground and Poseidon moves to the back using the smallest movements. His expression doesn't change at all, he doesn't even defend himself or block the attack. Zeus moves towards Poseidon and delivers an uppercut. Whoosh! Without bothering, Poseidon moves his head to the side, letting the fist pass by without touching him. One of his hands is behind Poseidon's back and with his other, he blocks the thousands of punches aimed at his head. Picture. Whoosh, 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 boom, bang, boom. I can tell that the speed of Zeus' fists is getting faster and faster, almost reaching the speed of light right now. The lighting is dancing around his body and charging the air, heating it up. The speed picks up once more, but it doesn't change anything. Poseidon uses his palm to hit the fists coming towards him out of their trajectory. It looks like Poseidon is moving around like water. A dance where one misstep could mean pain or a loss, but nothing seems to stop him. I try to memorize his moves and then replicate them, as this has to be the most powerful martial art I have ever seen or can imagine. Suddenly Poseidon stops moving backwards and no longer just blocks. He uses his palm to clash against the fist of Zeus, causing shockwaves to permeate the surroundings and cause a lot of destruction. Boom, boom, boom. I suddenly notice something as I watch them fight. The way the fight is going has changed. The flow, if you will, has shifted. Poseidon knows what's coming and acts accordingly. What's more impressive is that Poseidon isn't moving as fast as Zeus is, he is moving slower, and yet, he can not only block but even pressure Zeus. Come now, Zeus. All this work and you still can't do anything. Here, let me show you, I hear Poseidon say. He pulls his arm back and then waves it in front of him as if he was waving away a fly. Picture. Whoosh. A powerful shockwave is released from the wave of air and pushes Zeus back several meters. Unlike you, I have spent years and years training myself. Alright, that's a lie, but I still trained. I worked on myself and still do, which is why I am thankful for this little respite you granted me. A little way to move some muscles. Otherwise, I'll get rusty, Poseidon says. He has taken a strange position, which I can only attribute to his martial arts. He still has one arm behind his back and the other in front of him, facing upwards. The air around him has changed completely. Zeus is looking at him with more anger than ever before, and the power of his lightning is melting the ground and charging the air. I can feel his raw and fast power, while Poseidon, I feel nothing from him. Come, don't be shy. Here, let me show you again, Poseidon says. He turns his palm around so that it faces Zeus. A bright blue circle of what feels like various energies forms in front of his palm, and then, picture. Picture. Impossible, I say after the dust has settled somewhat. No, child. That is not even close to impossible, I hear Ra say beside me. I look at her and see that she is smiling gently and in a relaxed manner. She doesn't look bothered or worried at all, like she knew this would happen. I look back and see Zeus standing back up. He is all bloody and battered, but he has entered his strongest form. In that form he absorbs all of the lighting into himself and basically becomes lighting and adds enormous defense to his incredible speed. His hair stands up from the charge and the air smells of ozone. I see him take one step and then, he disappears and appears in front of Poseidon again. Boom. Normally, at our birth, we essentially have nothing. Our actions define what we do with our lives and what we achieve. We as gods are a special case, since we represent different domains and hold power connected to those domains. Our power and immortality naturally make some of us arrogant and bored over time. You are a special case. You are the youngest amongst us siblings and enjoyed the best life had to offer since the very beginning. You were cared for by beautiful ladies, enjoyed the best food and drink, and then appeared as the savior when you tricked Cronus. You became king, not because you were better suited for it, but because you had help. As the god of the sea, liquids, and more, I have come to understand how to read the flow of all things. Poseidon spoke to Zeus while he was dodging and blocking all of his attacks. Zeus wasn't able to land a single hit. But I noticed that as his anger rose, so did his power and therefore his speed. He was growing mid-fight. The threads of fate, the fates use thread to weave the fate of our pantheon and even a bit beyond. They are feared normally for the power they hold, and rightly so. You are on the receiving end of the fate they weave, which explains your life and experiences to this point. You were always meant to rule, and that was the reason you were voted to be king. It is also the reason you are growing stronger as we fight. Not that it matters, not really, but it explains why the others will have no chance of ever replacing you, at least if it weren't for me. Poseidon continues and chuckles. Babu. Lighting strikes from the sky and Zeus enters a new stage of power. I can feel him just passing some kind of threshold as he stands there with his master bolt in hand. His eyes shine with power and lighting, and even I have trouble breathing. I only see bits and pieces of his movements, and it looks like he is moving in slow motion, despite me seeing the past already. That's how fast he has become, faster than light. With a powerful throw, Zeus shoots his master bolt towards Poseidon. I see Poseidon hold his palm like he did before. The master bolt suddenly explodes into pure energy and blinds Poseidon for a second. When I can see again, I see that Zeus has used this fraction of time to appear in front of Poseidon. His fist charged with his top speed, multiple times faster than light and containing all of his power is right in front of his face. Picture. Picture. Can you still not tell? You can't even make a small scratch on me. The funny thing is that I am not using more power than you are. I am just better at using what I have than you. What you are seeing right now is my power over vibrations and waves in effect, combined with my martial arts. I am pushing you away from me and creating a barrier around me. Picture. That's what the foo dash. Even I have no words to say what I am seeing right now. What level of power has Poseidon reached to do this to Zeus, a god king? Zeus materializes his master bolt again and uses it like a sword to swipe at Poseidon. Boom. But instead of dodging or blocking, Poseidon just grabs the bolt with his bare hands. I think we will end the dance here for today. Before I go, I will tell you what will happen now. I will show you what will happen if you don't have a cheat and take away the thread that keeps you in power. I will change the flow of the tapestry of fate. Oh, and we will take Pandora with us. I see Poseidon hold his hand in front of Zeus' stomach and the same circle of power materializes on his palm again. And then, recoils, 9 everlasting spirit vibration palm. Picture. Chapter 20, Wedding. Third person POV. The day had arrived, finally. The kingdom of the rising tide was in chaos and anticipation for the upcoming event. A marriage is going to take place. Poseidon, god of the sea, earthquakes, life, and linguistics was marrying Ra, goddess of the sun, order, and the sky. Everyone in the kingdom was allowed to attend and some special guests were invited as well. A grand area was used for the occasion and everything was arranged by the minor gods and goddesses or nymphs, nereids, and oceanids who lived there. Even the humans were allowed to attend. Poseidon and Ra didn't differentiate between those when it came to celebrations. There weren't that many humans in the kingdom yet, because either Ra or Poseidon chose them personally and wouldn't allow anyone to enter. The processions were starting and just like a rather modern marriage, Poseidon arranged both him as the groom and Ra as the bride to have one witness. He chose Hades as his witness and his sister Hestia, who was also invited, was the witness for Ra. None of Ra's family had arrived, but that wasn't important to her. She had waited far too long for this moment, to let it slip past her fingers, due to her family. Hundreds of thousands of Poseidon's soldiers were present as well. They didn't look like high society guests, but no one cared about that. The kingdom of the rising tide was not a shallow one. Actions were more important than appearance and everyone knew that. Then the moment arrived. Hephaestus arrived, dressed in formal and beautiful clothes. His limb was long gone after Poseidon had healed him with his power over life. It would have been so easy for Hera to ask him for help and he would have helped her. Despite his words to her, he cared for her like he would for a sister. But her arrogance made it hard to do it. Greetings everyone, men and women of the kingdom of rising tide, Hephaestus addressed everyone. His voice was magically loud so that everyone could see him. Due to magic, everyone could both see and hear everything that was going on. Despite not being fit for this job, I will take the role of prime witness today to have our king and queen married. We are gathered here today to have our beloved leaders, our king and queen, our god king and god queen married on this day and with it, see a new era arrive. Because this day is special in another way as well. On this day, the kingdom of the rising tide will no longer be a mere kingdom in a separate dimension. No, with this unity of Ra and Poseidon, a new pantheon will be born. Murmur. That's right everyone. You heard right. With this union, a new pantheon will be born. One that is separate from the Greek pantheon or the Ennead and will stand on its own, against all opposition. I was invited as well and naturally, I accepted. The invitations also went out to Lord Hades and Lady Hestia, but they are still undecided. But now for the main event. Do you Lord Poseidon, take Lady Ra to be your lawfully wedded queen, to have and hold from this day forward, for good and better, for rich and richer, in health, to love and cherish, for all eternity. I do, Poseidon answered. And do you, Lady Ra, take Lord Poseidon to be your lawfully wedded king, to have and hold from this day forward, for good and better, for rich and richer, in health, to love and cherish, for all eternity. I do, Ra says. May we get the rings please, Hephaestus says. Hades and Hestia step forward to present the rings both Ra and Poseidon have prepared for one another. The rings were special of course and would hold secrets as well as authority and mark them as belonging to the other. Ra was the first one to step forward. I thought long about what I could gift you, my love. But I settled with creating a ring that burns as brightly and powerfully as my love for you. As long as you wear this ring, you will share my power and be able to do what I do, have the same authority as I do over my domains and feel where I am at all times. The ring will be warmer and shine brighter the more love it is fed, so keep it warm. Ra presented her ring to Poseidon. It might not have looked like much, but there was a massive amount of power contained inside the ring. It was pure love, melted down and made into a ring. Picture. Poseidon smiled at that and as soon as Ra put the ring on his finger, it started to shine as brightly as the sun. So much so, that he had to dim it using his magic. It's beautiful. I will cherish it forever. But now it's my turn. I also thought long about what I could give you. In the end, I want to give you everything but that might be a bit much for just a ring. So I settled with almost everything. With this ring, I grant you authority equal to mine in our future pantheon and the kingdom of the rising tide. Your word shall be my word and your decisions mine. Through wearing this ring, I also grant you a new divinity and make it, so that you may never feel weakness, no matter the environment you are in, Poseidon says. His ring was more feminine with what looked like precious stones inside. But those stones weren't really stones, they were water. This water represented the authority Poseidon granted Ra and the power she would gain after wearing it. It was also a rather unassuming ring, but as soon as she wore it, a powerful wave of water shot out from the ring and drenched her. When the water receded, Ra wasn't wet though and only smiled brightly, understanding that she had gained a divinity over all kinds of radiation. Picture. Ra and Poseidon smiled at one another and she jumped at Poseidon, kissing him deeply. The kiss contained all of the emotion these two held for one another. Well, we skipped a step, but by the power Poseidon so graciously granted me for this occasion, I now pronounce you king and queen. You may kiss. Woo-oh-ah. A loud cheering roared through the crowd as they witnessed the birth of a new pantheon, one that was founded with love and marriage between two god kings. The power these two held was higher than any other new pantheon. Right now, the power between these two was second only to the Hindu pantheon. But the three most powerful deities of the Hindu pantheon thankfully didn't really care about the others. But we shall see. The pantheon of solar tides was born. The celebrations were going on in full swing, and unlike the parties on Olympus that were filled with getting drunk and orgies, this one was not like that. There was alcohol, but it was drunk sparingly, and there were also other beverages. Everyone was talking to each other. Station didn't matter, divinity didn't matter. Hades talked to his wife, Persephone, but also others like nymphs and even a few humans. His image was slowly changing, and it was all thanks to Poseidon. There was no one more powerful than the royal couple, and since they were so familiar with everyone, it was not scary for them to see Hades or any other god. Poseidon and Ra ate with all the guests for hours, but then left the party to be alone. Poseidon led Ra to a new area, where he had created a new palace just for them. Picture. So you just created this in your free time? And how did I not see you do this? I was with you most of the time. That's right, most of the time. I work very fast. Besides, time has not much meaning when you can manipulate it, Poseidon says as they walk. I love it. I really do. Nothing will ever separate us again. After all, I hold your heart in my hand, Ra says with a mischievous smile as she caresses her ring. Ah, so you noticed. Of course I did. It has been a part of me for a while now, Ra says. Haha. Well, there is in fact another reason. I wanted to show you our new residence. Really? Yes. I have another present for you, Poseidon says as they reach their sleeping chamber. On the humongous bed, a small long box lay there with a sword on top. Ra looks at the weapon and then at Poseidon. A sword. It is a soul-cutting weapon. The shape of the weapon is not fixed and can become whatever you want. All you have to do is infuse your essence with it, Poseidon says. Ra approaches the weapon. She takes it into her hand, and as soon as she does that, a bright light and heat emanate from it. As a powerful goddess, she has long mastered most of her abilities. Most in the sense that she has development potential, and since meeting Poseidon, who never stopped growing stronger, she was motivated to also become more powerful and train. So the connection with her soul cutter weapon is a matter of seconds. A great change takes place inside the room, and the sun that shines in the kingdom shines stronger. Poseidon watches as his wife undergoes a change. Not just spiritually and conceptually, but also her clothes change. For some reason, the clothing style of Ra, where she wears the least amount as possible, carries over and she appears in a different state. Her hair becomes white and a staff appears in her hand. Picture. Ra smiles as Poseidon walks towards her. He moves very close. While he looks apathetic to most people, he doesn't look that way at all when Ra is around. And something has started to rise to see her like this. He gives her a deep kiss. We will never let anyone see you like this. And in the off chance that you do, make sure to kill them, otherwise, I will. He whispers into her ear. MHHH. I love that possessiveness and I agree. How about I show you my soul realm? Ra asks. Are you sure? It doesn't get more personal than that. Are you serious? I just thought I'd remind you. The two focused, and a moment later, they both appeared in Ra's soul realm. The place was shining brightly like the sun on steroids. The heat would kill anyone who didn't have a similar domain or resistance to heat. To put it into perspective, the core of the sun in our solar system is roughly 15 million degrees Celsius, and this is not even a fraction of the heat in Ra's soul realm. And the heat was rising more and more. Thanks to the new divinity of radiation, the soul realm also exuded all kinds of radiation, with an intensity that would instantly kill even superhumans. Not even gods would come out unscathed from this and would develop cancer quite fast. In fact, Poseidon looked around and saw Ra sitting on a golden throne. He could already see her true release being very overpowered indeed. It would make Yamamoto Shijikuni look like a candle or less. You know, love, I have the perfect martial arts for you. Now that you have gained a major divinity over radiation, Poseidon says, I am interested to see it. What's it called? The all-life eradicating fist. MHH, I want to see it now. Say, how about we use this large bed for the first time? I suddenly feel like it would be the best time, Ra says after they return to their bedroom. Ra moves on the bed and lies down, looking back at Poseidon seductively. Picture. It was clear what would happen tonight and the next couple of months. Poseidon smiles and joins her. The two finally consummated their marriage. Chapter 21, Ain't No Rest for the Wicked, Third Person POV. In order to understand the history of the Asgardian thunder god known as Thor, one must first understand the nature of the Asgardian people. Although their true origins are lost to antiquity, the Asgardian people, native to the dimensional realm of Asgard, have spent centuries as slaves to the mysterious being known only as those who sit above in shadow. These immensely powerful beings have utilized the Asgardian people to sustain and increase their ever-growing power. Generally, the people of Asgard had long believed those who sit above to be only myth. The only member of this pantheon who was aware of the full truth was Thor's father Odin, who for untold centuries has attempted to break the hold those who sit above have had on his people. This cycle of death and rebirth has since been called Ragnarok, or the twilight of the gods. This cycle has appeared to be part of the celestial axis of the zodiacal procession. Asgard and 8 of the 9 worlds within are linked to the planet Earth in another dimension via the celestial equator. Each Ragnarok cycle has been run roughly every 2,160 years. Each new cycle would occur basically the same with varying differences. Thor himself would relive his life over and over, sometimes different in appearance, sometimes different in overall character. His relationships with his fellow gods also varied from cycle to cycle. Generally speaking, most myths state that the people of Asgard had their beginnings with the birth of the frost giant Ymir who rose out of the frozen waters of the Well of Life many millennia ago. This was followed by the birth of the cow known as Audomla who was protected and nourished itself from Ymir's body. From this feeding from the ice, Audomla uncovered the first of the gods, Buri. Buri later married the frost giantess as a wife who bore him a number of children. Among these children was Bor, who begot more children with his wife Bestla. Among these children was Odin. Odin eventually became the ruler of the realm of Asgard and lorded over its 9 worlds. Odin, through his wife Frigga, had a single son, Thor, who grew to become the god of thunder and eventually wielded the mystical hammer known as Mjolnir. But this cycle things were different. In this cycle that we find ourselves in, things are very different. In this cycle, Odin decided that his son Thor should be born with a direct connection to Earth. In order to facilitate this, Thor sought out the Earth Mother Jord, also known as Gaia. Jord gave birth to Thor, and after a few months of weaning, Odin took the boy to Asgard where he was given into the care of his wife Frigga. It was not long after Thor's arrival in Asgard that Odin allowed his father Bor to seemingly perish battling frost giants by being turned into snow so that he could rule the kingdom himself. Growing up as a child, Thor often heard tales of his father's various quests. But what he didn't tell him was what happened when his father Odin went to Earth and met Jord in order to convince her to conceive his son. Several centuries ago, on Earth, inside a secret dimension that was only accessible to a few, a man appeared. It was the dimension belonging to Gaia or Jord, as the Northerners called her. The man was tall and powerful. His aura told of many battles and the mystical energy he wielded spoke for his role as a leader of his pantheon, the Skyfather Odin Borson. Due to his status as Allfather of Asgard, Odin is an extremely prideful deity, demanding respect from all gods and mortals. But his power might have also made him a bit arrogant, because only the most foolish or the most powerful would dare to enter Jord's domain like he did. And there weren't many who could even hope to get out of her domain alive like that. So there he stood, looking at Jord, Gaia, the Earth Mother, and she looked at him. The Allfather Odin bids thee greeting, Jord goddess of the earth. I come to Midgard from high to seek counsel from thee. Primordial, Odin speaks. Speak, Odin Borson of Asgard. And I shall see whether you may leave alive, Gaia or Jord says. I seek an heir whose power surpasses Asgard. You are the fertile spirit of earth, fair primordial and eye of heaven's glory. Were we to join in love, what majesty might be born of such divine union? Odin asks. You think highly of yourself, Allfather. But why would I ever care about that? I have more than enough offspring that are strong enough. Even the offspring of my offspring is powerful and continues to impress. So tell me, what can you offer me for this? Jord asks. Odin thinks for a moment. He didn't see this happening. His missing eye is a testament to the wisdom he gained from Yggdrasil. So he thought that a powerful son, born of their union, would be within her interest. And yet, here she was wanting something. But what? What is it that you seek? What could I, Odin Borson, have that you desire? Speak and I might grant it. I do understand within my soul your burning desire for a son whose strength might derive not solely from your own. A son, unlike the gods of Asgard whom you gave form at the beginning of age, but I also desire something. And if you truly want that son of yours, then you will swear to me that you will grant it. What is it? Revenge. Revenge on the one who dared to go against the natural order. The one who stole the souls of my precious children and did the worst of crimes. The one who I can no longer touch on my own. Swear it to me, that you will get revenge for me, and destroy him. If you do that, then you shall have what you seek, Jord tells Odin. Odin thought about her words and finally nodded his head. An easy request. It shall be done. You have the oath of Odin Borson. Very well then. Come then, if you find the present guise of Jord most pleasing to your eyes which I as Mother Earth wear. Embrace me in your arms and I shall give you such a son as time has never known. And so, a child was conceived. Thor Odinson. Present day. In the halls of Asgard's throne room, sat Odin, the Allfather, the Skyfather, the god king of the Nordic pantheon. He was in thought and knew that the time had come. The time for paying back debts he owed. Call Jord here now, Odin demands, and the guards immediately leave the halls to fulfill his request. Odin was in thought. He knew that doing what Jord asked of him all those centuries ago would not be easy as he first thought. But that was hardly a problem. On the contrary, he was even a bit excited that his son Thor, whom he had groomed and prepared for so long, could find some enjoyment in battle soon enough. Despite what he said to others, Odin loved battle as much as Thor does now in his youth. But Odin has learned when to fight and when it is better not to. The best time of attack was now, Odin knew. But he wouldn't go ahead and attack head-on, that would be folly. No, he had other plans and could see the outcome of certain actions. Having observed his target and those around him for years now, he knew that it was best to use the tactic he had prepared. The door opened and in walked Njord. He was dressed in his armor and bowed before Odin. "You called for me, All-Father?" Njord asked. "Indeed, Njord. There is a crucial task I have for you. Over the centuries, things have started to take a displeasing turn for our pantheon and it is time to change that." Odin spoke in his deep authoritarian voice that demanded respect. "What displeases you, my lord, and I shall change it. The pantheon of solar tides has gotten far too strong over the years and has even dared to venture into our territory. I fear that their greed will become too big in the future. Therefore, we will act now and strike them when they least expect it." "The pantheon of solar tides? That is a big target, All-Father. How may I assist you?" "Go forth and attack their settlements. Destroy their human settlements, cause chaos, and make it seem like it was Poseidon's doing. The anger addressed at him will keep him busy, for us to strike them at their core and take them out." "Are you certain that will be enough, All-Father? I stand no chance against Poseidon, from what I have heard and dash. Do you question my intelligence? You are to capture their attention and grant us a big window for attack. Don't worry, I have more than enough plans to see this through. Do your task, unless you don't feel up for the task." "Of course not, All-Father. I will do what you asked," Njord says and bows his head. Things were going to be interesting, thought Odin. With a thought, Odin connected to another person, who would prove invaluable in his plans and who he could use as a meat shield. Mount Kailash. On Mount Kailash, overlooking the world, a single being is meditating. Next to him, a Trishula stands. A trident, representing the three aspects of his being: creation, preservation, and destruction. His hair flows in as if it were underwater, despite that not being the case. He has a third eye on his forehead, symbolizing his ability to see beyond the physical realm and destroy evil. The being with purple skin is deep in meditation. Nothing and no one could ever get him out of this, except very few things. No one knows what the being is meditating on, or for how long. Those things don't matter though. What matters is that he was here at the beginning and would be here to end it all and have things be created anew. The being is known under many names. Mahadeva, the great god; Shankara, the auspicious one; Rudra, the howler, a more fearsome form; Maheshwara, the great lord; and Nilakanta, the blue-throat one. But he is most commonly known as Shiva. Shiva is one of the principal deities in Hinduism and a member of the Trimurti, the holy trinity that includes Brahma and Vishnu. Together they form the most powerful gods on earth and are very very high up on the multiversal scale of power. Shiva is known as the destroyer or transformer within the Trimurti, responsible for the destruction necessary for regeneration and renewal. Shiva's role as the destroyer is not negative but essential for the cycle of creation, preservation, and destruction. He destroys the universe at the end of each cycle, making way for new creation. He is a complex deity, embodying both compassion and fierceness. He is known to be easily pleased by his devotees and offers boons generously. Conversely, he can be fierce and destructive, particularly in his form as Bhairava. As it would have it, the calm of Shiva's meditation was disturbed. Not in a forceful quick way, but it felt as if something wasn't right. In case of danger, if such a thing was even possible, Shiva's senses would warn him and he would awake from his meditation. But this time his senses didn't warn him of danger. Instead, it felt more like something was bothering him, like an itch that you couldn't scratch. Being the powerful and old deity that he was, he had never experienced this. But it wasn't going away. So, after meditating for ages, he finally opened his eyes and what he saw caused him to raise his eyebrow. There in front of him, sits someone, a young god from another pantheon no less. Shiva finds the situation amusing as he can see that the young god in front of him is seemingly in very deep meditation and undergoing some kind of process. His body and soul are changing and Shiva can sense something meaningful happening. After a moment, the young god, with golden hair, opens his eyes and the two look each other in the eyes. No words are needed to convey what they think. Both are strong enough to transcend the need for words. "Greetings, O auspicious one, I am Poseidon, a neighbor of yours." "Greetings to you too, Poseidon. Might I inquire about your reason for coming here? Did we not exchange words with our eyes just now? I thought that was the reason for our intense moment." "Ho ho ho ho. I see now. You are overflowing with charisma. You are not laughing at my joke, are you?" "No, but the situation was amusing nonetheless. So will you tell me why you're here?" "Certainly, I am here to learn how to dance like you, Natraja." "I see. It makes sense after all. We are similar in some ways, are we not?" "Indubitably." Chapter 22, The Start of Something Unfathomable. Third-person POV. I am often called Natraja, the Lord of Dance, and for good reason. My dance, known as the Tandava, is a significant concept in our Hindu pantheon and represents the cosmic cycle of creation, preservation, and destruction. The two most common forms of my dance are the Lasya, which is the gentle form of my dance, associated with the creation of the world, and the Ananda Tandava, the dance of bliss, the vigorous form of dance, associated with the destruction of weary worldviews, weary perspectives and lifestyles and the universe as a whole. In essence, the Lasya and the Tandava are just two aspects of my nature, for I destroy in order to create, tearing down to build again. A concept I know you are familiar with. If I teach you my dance, I know you will be able to learn it very fast. Probably the first time you've seen it. I am also certain that you could learn it without me ever showing it. You have something that allows you to learn anything and improve yourself. I don't know what it is, but I know that no one simply develops new powers on the fly like you do. I don't care about that. What I do care about, is that you came to me instead of just learning the Tandava. I understand you and you understand me, it would seem. This surprises me, which is rare and seemingly impossible, for I have seen it all already. I shall teach it to you. The flow of destruction and creation will come naturally to you. But there is something I would like from you, Shiva says. And what? I would like to know what you meditated on and learn your technique. This way we can exchange techniques and make it an equal exchange. I agree to this. What I just meditated on is what I call, the Great Way of Poseidon. The name needs work, but it's all I have right now. You can also call it Mahayana, for I took it from Buddha and adapted it to myself, Poseidon says. Buddha? Truly? Interesting. I can imagine how he must have reacted when you made it more powerful than him. He probably didn't care and was happy too. Indeed. He only smiled when I did that. He's an enjoyable man to be around, Poseidon says. Very well. Shall we start? Yes please. What followed was Shiva teaching Poseidon how to do the Tandava. He taught him both forms. Ananda Tandava, the dance of bliss, depicting joy and creation, and Rudra Tandava, the dance of destruction, associated with Shiva's more wrathful aspects. Poseidon, who was the god of waves and flow, naturally picked it up easily. He didn't use a pool of inspiration as they spent the time together. He immersed himself in the experience and dance. Picking up new things was a hobby of his since he was born, and learning something like this was enjoyable for him. Shiva was a chill dude, if you will. Rage and joy interwoven into one god and given form. Destruction and creation are connected like two ends of a rope that touch. Poseidon closed his eyes and let things happen. He danced on top of Mount Kailash together with Shiva. The worries of the world are forgotten right now. Neither of them stopped doing what they were doing. The more Poseidon danced, the more he understood it. He only had to do something once, to master it, but he was not stopping at mastery. He took it beyond that. After an unknown amount of time, Shiva opened his eyes and observed Poseidon's dance. What he saw shocked him. That's right, Poseidon, an infant in Shiva's eyes, shocked him to the core. It was his dance, he had created it and it represented him. But what he saw was Poseidon, not moving at all. He saw Poseidon's spirit or his soul leave his body, while the physical body was meditating on the ground. The spirit did the Tandava, while the physical body meditated. He had gone beyond what was thought possible and took the Tandava to another level. He was using the flow and manipulating it, to suit his needs and wishes. He was like a surfer who used the waves but also manipulated the water to create the waves he wanted. He had created a perpetuum mobile in the spiritual sense. The more he followed the flow, the more he understood it and the better he got with the Tandava. His understanding deepened, his control rose, and the power he exuded shot through the roof into the unknown. Shiva stood there, taking it in and smiling. After a while, Poseidon stopped because he felt reality starting to crumble slightly. His mere dance, without any power involved, was destroying spacetime around him. The rigid parts of reality that were set in stone were destroyed as Poseidon performed his dance. He opened his eyes and looked into the distance. No one knows what he saw at that moment. Only Shiva might have an idea. Then his eyes focused again and he looked at Shiva. One of the three most powerful gods smiled at him gently. That was beautiful. I will try to reach that stage soon. To think that you learned about it and then reached a transcendent stage before me. I am impressed, Poseidon. The world will belong to the solar tide pantheon, that is certain. Nonsense. The Hindu pantheon is powerful and will survive the tides of time. I have seen it. Did you? I did too. But time means nothing, and neither does fate to those who can either manipulate it or destroy it with a breath. True. So how about that great way of Poseidon? Can I learn it now? Shiva asked. Sure, let's do it. The Great Way of the Buddha, also known as the Forbidden Heavenly Tome, is a forbidden divine profound art. It comes from Buddha and describes his way to reach enlightenment. It could help a human reach the legendary body of saints, basically placing him on the level of gods and becoming one while not simultaneously. But that isn't really important. Normal humans cannot cultivate the Great Way of the Buddha without exploding, since it puts a heavy strain on their bodies. Only people who have inherited some bloodline or have some power inherently can cultivate this art. The Great Way of the Buddha affects your blood vessels, muscles, skin, and hair, and actually has not even the slightest of relationships with divine energy or divine power, since it relies on the strength of the soul and nature instead. Its cultivation is absolutely not from battle, but from comprehension instead. That is what makes the Great Way of Poseidon an arduous art to cultivate due to its extremely harsh requirements on the person's comprehension abilities, Poseidon started to explain. He had truly met with Buddha and learned his teachings, but he chose the Great Way of the Buddha from the novel Against the Gods. The Great Way of the Buddha has 12 stages. The Great Way of Poseidon, on the other hand, has no true limit, since it can increase the power of the body and develop anything about yourself if you understand it. But the initial phase also consists of 12 stages. The purpose of the first stage of the Great Way of the Buddha is to absorb the vitality of the world, and to allow the world's vitality to fill, refine, and transform your body. including the flesh, hair, blood, bones, organs, and marrow, allowing the body to be born anew. Every following elevation of the realms in each stage will also result in a new reformation of the body. If a mortal were to use this technique, every new reformation of the body signified a slight separation from the mortal realm. Their lifespan would also increase exponentially. The great way of the Buddha is a bit different from the one I created. First stage, provide strength of 2000 kg. Second stage, increase arm strength by 4000 kg. Third stage, increase strength by 10,000 kg, a body that is as strong as pure steel, and a healing capability that no ordinary person could possibly understand. Fourth stage, bestow a bodily strength of 50,000 kg. Fifth stage, 100,000 kg, you can absorb the energy of heaven's way. Sixth stage, 200,000 kg, peak mortal physique of saint body. Seventh stage, 400,000 kg, here you are able to restore important bodily necessities such as vision. Underscore 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 underscore. Mine is different though. What good does 400,000 kg do to anyone? The great way of Poseidon is harder to understand but also grants much bigger rewards. You see, after you enter the first stage, your strength doubles. From the first to the second stage, the buff is not 2 but 4 times. From the second stage to the third, the increase is 8 times and so on. Shiva looked at Poseidon like he had 2 heads. Although that wasn't anything special for a Hindu god, so, yeah, you are a strange man, Poseidon. But I am more than interested in seeing this cultivation you speak of. So tell me, how do I start with this? Shiva asks. Well, it goes like this. The two powerful gods spend a lot of time talking, meditating, and exchanging stories as they spend their time together. It looked strange for two such powerful gods to act like old friends who met after a long time and had a drink together. They were talking and a surprising bond formed between them. As they were talking, another presence made itself known. Both Shiva and Poseidon looked at a spot where spacetime shimmered and another man appeared. Shiva knew the person well and Poseidon knew him as well, but only from afar. The man had a blue complexion, symbolizing his infinite nature and cosmic dimensions, as well as 4 arms. And in those arms, the man held a chakra, discus, which represents the mind and the weapon to destroy evil. A shankha, conch shell, this symbolizes the divine sound and life force. A gada, mace representing strength and protection. And a padma, lotus flower, symbolizes purity and spiritual power. What are you doing here, Vishnu? Shiva asks. Vishnu is one of the principal deities of Hinduism, widely revered as the preserver and protector of the universe. He is part of the Trimurti, which includes Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. Vishnu is known for his role in maintaining the order and harmony of the cosmos and is depicted as a benevolent deity. He is also the ruler of the Hindu pantheon in this multiverse. Vishnu opened his eyes and looked at Shiva and Poseidon. Shiva, I have come for your new friend here, Vishnu says. I thought as much. What can I do for you, Lord Vishnu? Poseidon asks. I have come to inform you, young Poseidon, about the disturbance happening right now. The balance of the world is uncertain and threatens to shift. The threads and plans have been laid out and are ready to be used. I am sure you are aware of what is happening, but are you truly ready? Vishnu asks. Are you talking about Gaia's plan to get revenge on me? If so, then yes. The All-Father and his band of misfits, as well as those he called for help, will break their jaws trying to bite more than they can chew. We are prepared, Poseidon says. I see great pride in you and understand that you have not let your power cloud your judgment. But time is fickle when so many gods and different pantheons are involved. What do you want to tell me, Lord Vishnu? Poseidon asks. I would like to declare our independence in the war to come. You need not fear for involvement of the Trimurti, Vishnu tells Poseidon. I thank you for that information. You also needn't worry about any form of attack coming from the solar tide pantheon, Poseidon says, and makes both Shiva and Vishnu smile. Not out of amusement, as funny as that might seem considering their power. They both know Poseidon's potential is limitless and boundless beyond compare. He will rise higher and there is nothing they can do about it, save for destroying the entire universe, and not even that might work anymore. Poseidon shook both Shiva's and Vishnu's hands and then left. It was time for a war.